Hey guys, welcome back to the Jonathan Huizinga story, part 2. I'm your host as always, Blake Helm. This is the post-game spread. We are covering his playing career during this, and in part 2, we cover essentially the start of his pro career, starting in independent ball briefly, then getting into affiliated when all of a sudden he's throwing mid-90s with Sync, a catastrophic elbow injury, the comeback there, the perseverance of Will, an incredible story in that, and then seeing all corners of independent ball in the country and all the shenanigans that come along with independent ball. There's a stint there playing with Jose Canseco. He went up to Canada. He played with the St. Paul Saints, all over the place. We hear from some awesome baseball people throughout this. We hear from Brandon Rogers, his catcher. We hear from James Hoyt Beast, former big leaguer, still doing it in the Mexican League this last year. Joey Gathright, the legend of Joey Gathright, former big leaguer, maybe one of the most athletic guys to ever lace him up. And then we hear a little bit of the Brittany Huizinga clips, but we're going to save the majority of those for part 3 when we wrap up his pro career, his playing career, before we get into, his coaching stuff and we hear from all these $1 million arms that want to get under the umbrella. So buckle up, guys. This was an awesome ride. John is such a beauty of a person. So this is going to be the Jonathan Huizinga story, part 2, A Catcher's Dream. Hope you guys enjoy. And now a few words from our sponsors. We are brought to you by Overtime Training Academy, located at 3604 North Peoria Road. Phone number 217-899-3233, or head on over to their Facebook page. This place is incredible. This is where the home of Washco Strength and Speed is located. They've got all kinds of incredible tech for hitting and pitching. They offer hitting lessons, pitching lessons, catching lessons for baseball and softball. You can rent the turf. They've got a huge facility there, so other sports can come in there and do their thing indoors if they need it. Go check these guys out, the premier place in Springfield to train. We are also brought to you by Washco Strength and Speed, located at 3604 North Peoria Road, 217-899-3233. Of course, I'm talking about Jared Washco, the Springfield area firefighter, the former pitching standout at SHG and SCI. He is credentialed. He is a CPT, CSCS. Those are the highest credentials you can get in the strength and conditioning game. I think he is absolutely fantastic working with young athletes, probably the best in the area, working with baseball players. His results say it all. He's worked with high school guys, college guys, pro guys, and they keep coming back to him. They get bigger, they get faster, they get stronger, more explosive, better at their sport, less injury prone. He handles it all. He does arm care work. He does speed work. Go see Jared if you are a local athlete trying to get the most out of yourself. Invest in yourself. Go see Jared. We are also brought to you by the Office Sports Bar and Grill, located at 1919 West Isles Avenue. This is a really special place. I've been going there since probably 20 years, since I was in college, and there's just so much cool sports memorabilia, dating back through Springfield's history. All different high schools represented, pro guys, college guys. There's some great stuff on the walls. It's a great place to get together with friends, a great environment, inviting, warm, happy, lively, great place for great conversation, great drinks, and great food. Please go see this place. Go patronize them. We really appreciate the support. The Office Sports Bar and Grill. We are also brought to you by Cardinal Cleaning. They can be reached at cardinalcleaningonline.com and 217-679-6567. Owner-operator Adam Springer, local baseball dude, family friend, standout at Chatham Glenwood in the mid-90s. Also had a stellar career at Rend Lake and Kentucky Wesleyan. Cardinal Cleaning can take care of any cleaning needs you have. Home, business, restaurant, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever you need, they can take care of you. Get a hold of Cardinal Cleaning. They'll do the rest. We are also brought to you by BSN Sports, specifically Adam Anderson, who grew up playing ball with Blaine Cravens and Walt Patton, former guests here, and played football at Illinois College. BSN Sports, the nation's leading supplier of sporting goods, uniforms, and apparel. They provide game-changing solutions to their customers and work to make life easier for coaches. They have over 13 sales pros in the central Illinois area. Reach out to Adam Anderson at adam.anderson@bsnsports.com. They'll take care of you. We really appreciate you guys. Thanks, BSN. Dude, I like it. So we got a little different background here today.
I'm pretty much just, there was somebody that wanted to join me today, so
Sure.
I moved the chair.
Gotta have support. Looks like I'm seeing Steve Carlton up there. I see Nolan Ryan behind you.
Yeah, Dot Gooden,
Oh man,
Th-
I'm
Chappie.
actually reading Nolan Ryan's book, Throwing Heat, right now.
Nice.
But yeah, all good things back there, man. So hey, how we doing, buddy? What's up?
Rocking and rolling, brother.
Yeah, I see we got the Manimal sweater on here. Yeah. Oh, that's it, dude. Oh man, that's so perfect. I gotta get some Fuel Factory stuff. Gotta
That's a
get
funny
me
one.
some of that stuff. So hey, man, how has it been since we dropped part one? That was, I'm sure, a unique experience for you. I know you've done a ton of podcasts, but I think kind of what we're doing is unique and different. How was that experience for you?
It was fun because I think a lot of the kids that I've trained know me more as the coach. So getting to hear some of this stuff.
Yeah,
And then for myself, it was the same thing, just peeling back the
sure,
chapters.
dude. And there was so many incredible knowledge things that you dropped too. You were everything that I thought you were going to be, dude. I'm so glad that we're doing this. Couple things jumped out at me from the last time. Um, One of my favorite logos of all time, and I thought about getting it tattooed before. You might actually have a tattoo of it. Is the Major League logo from the movie? You know, with the mohawk and the shades,
I've had a
and
hat. I've had a hat. I've definitely rocked that hat. I've
but
definitely had the shirt, and I have a right in my office. There's the little wild thing,
yes. So
but
anyway,
it's one of the little characters.
my point being, I thought you might have done a logo with it at some point or something, some kind of artwork with you involved, maybe, or maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, no one has that. I was thinking this, like, you are the logo. Like, you are, if there was a person, representation of that logo, of that Major League logo with the mohawk and the shades and the attitude, I was like, that's Johnny F and Z. Has anyone ever told you that?
Uh, yeah, it was funny because I was kind of going back through some chapters, and it was Johnny Flamethrower, where I think was one of my first nicknames post college, where it was like I was running around running foul poles, and there's this dude Jeff Garner that I played with
Yeah.
that he was he was out there running. We were running by each other, and he made some comment about Johnny Flamethrower, and then it was just like, yeah,
Off
it's
to the
funny.
races.
That's
Yeah.
well, I think things just layer themselves. It's kind of the alter ego stuff that we talk about with the kids, where it's especially if you play for long enough, it's like you continue to refine that,
Yeah.
and it becomes more, and then eventually one day, perhaps that mohawk becomes something else because it had a little split in it. I still rocked it for a while, but I'd start to see the videos where there's no longer there, so I'm like, okay,
Had the split, two
yeah,
stripes.
that's funny.
Well, that's great, man. I'm really excited to get back into it. Like you just said, we are covering your playing career before we get into your coaching career here, and I've gotten some cool text messages and whatnot from our first, part one and two. Edwin Jackson got a hold of me, and he thought it was dope, and now we're looking at involving him a little bit later in this.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, E-Jack. One of the most incredible careers of all time in Major League Baseball. That guy got around, did it, performed. Where we kind of left off last time was right at the end of your collegiate career. We heard from some people from your past, incredible. We're kind of getting into pro ball now here. So where we kind of left it was did not get drafted. Um, was that a painful snub for you, or was that just a hey, let's keep it moving, and I'm gonna find my way?
I think it was more of a wake up call
Hmm.
than anything, where it was like, I had to get better at things if I
Okay.
was going to continue to play.
For sure. So then what was that? Actually, before we get going here, we are still brought to you by Clean Fuego. We already did an awesome clip the first time through. So head on over to cleanfuego.com. Use code postgamespread for 10% off. All right. Now we're rolling then. So how did we get hooked up with Kalamazoo? Let's go from there.
So the tryout that I originally had, I think we started talking about it a little
Right.
bit. What was in Chillicothe, and there was a manager. His name was Jamie O'Keefe. He's still out there jamming, managing people.
Mm-hmm.
loving the game. He's a beauty too.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I threw, and they happened to be playing against the Kalamazoo Kings, which was kind of the closest team to where I lived,
Yep.
right? That was 20 minutes from my house. And there was a guy, Matt Sheets, that was a couple of years ahead of me in the Grand Rapids A's system. And he was the pitching coach and a player for the other team. And basically, they made a trade, which, those indie ball trades. I mean, it might have been for like a box of seeds or
Seriously. Yeah.
a high five or, whatever it was for, player to be named later,
Yep.
to complete a previous trade, wherever
Yeah.
that was. But long story short, yeah, ended up getting to go there.
Right. And then from what I think you remember, what you told us, it was like a quick. You got they
Yeah, it was a rough one. It was a rough one.
it was like a rough first outing, but they said, hey, we see something in you. Come back. It was right at the end of the year.
Yeah, it was
Come
towards
back.
the end of the year.
Come
Yep,
back
exactly.
next year, and we'll figure something out. Essentially, right?
Hmm.
So we're off to the races from there.
Yep.
So let's go. What was next then?
So then Fletch was basically training pitchers, and I was getting to be kind of like his sidekick. I
Yeah.
would, if there was stuff that needed to be done, or I'd throw with the guys or catch the guys, or
Yeah.
so we would basically train guys, and then I'd train all day long, and kind of just started a new path, as far as the dedication piece, and starting to really kind of like Gundy would talk about, where it was like, remember when you used to think you worked hard.
Right. What was that switch then, or what was that wake up moment for you, where hey, what I'm doing isn't enough to get where I want to go. I need to make some changes.
I think some of it was lifestyle stuff too. One of my very close friends took his life, and that's a whole nother long story. But it was, for the first year, originally thought that it was like an accident type of a thing versus something, and it was a whole wake up call to lifestyle stuff for me
Right.
that needed to change.
Like
And
leaving
it
some
was
of that
like it was
college,
a
like fast
refining.
food, drinking stuff behind.
Yeah, that standard American diet thing, right? Where it's
Right.
like, lots of drinking and food, and just like the, whatever you want to call it, the
Right. Yeah.
standard
I think that's a great way to put it.
college.
Yeah.
And
SAD.
I think there's a lot of other people that can relate to that, cuz
Sure.
but yeah, so I mean, it was a nasty process at the time, and that was not the only thing, right? That was the not getting drafted. It was like all the
Sure.
different stuff that had kind of compiled itself originally.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, okay, things need to change, or everything else, it's like starting to whatever else I would have done.
Sure. So big changes in your diet, how you were exercising, anything else? I mean, were you starting to get into the martial arts and stuff, or when did you start going down some of these Eastern philosophy, rabbit holes?
Oh, I'd say the deepest rabbit holes were after my injury, but I
Okay.
mean, I had a punching bag in my garage since I was whatever years old, and
Okay. Okay. So
and
then,
and grew up watching Rocky, right? So it was like
yeah, the greatest.
Rocky and Michael Jordan, and
Oh
Michael
man,
Jordan Come Fly With Me 1990 was a documentary that
great
my
movie.
mother my mother would tell you that she multiple times came into my room while I'm sleeping, and I'm like reciting it in my sleep. Like
That's incredible.
I
And then
would
also,
I would talk in my sleep, and she'd be like, "Yeah, you were like reciting that documentary that you watch." And I'm like,
that's incredible, man. The Rocky Four training scene in Russia will always be so iconic to me. Like I think anyone that is a grinder like that or loves working out and stuff, that's just I can close my eyes and almost watch it without even seeing the movie. I'm sure you can probably feel the same.
I still turn it on. I mean, multiple
Rocky
times a
Four,
week for guys. The soundtrack for sure. I mean,
so
it's
good.
mixed in because it just
Yeah.
like, yeah. Even
Yep.
Xander, I remember we'd turn it on and he'd start running around the backyard, like even when he was a kid,
He
just because it
knows.
was, yeah.
That's awesome. So what I think
But
I
yeah, I
know
think
then.
the martial arts, the workouts, the stuff, I think it just continued to, as you
Evolve.
dive down rabbit holes, you peel back the onion and
Yeah.
you get to deeper layers. But I think a lot of times too, you start to see like patterns where it's like, for me, I think the big thing was realizing that instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, it's like I could learn from people who had been before me, and I could then
Beautiful.
pass it on to like the young guys that with Fletch I was getting to either work
Yeah.
out with or starting to mentor, you know, like little guys,
Yeah. I love that. So then
little fuel chuckers, you know.
little field chuckers, man. So what I'm seeing here, and we touched on it a little bit in part one, but just in case people are picking this back up, a 4 game stint with the Kalamazoo Kings, shoving uh 0.79. This is when you get picked up, so I don't want to take this out of your hands here.
Mm-hmm.
So take me through that. And what I think I remember is you had a big jump in velo too, and you were like, oh, all of a sudden I'm like a 94, 95 guy, like crazy. So what's I'd love to hear
Well,
it.
and I had kind of touched some numbers, but I was inconsistent, I think,
Okay.
as far as, you know, I'd have this day or I'd have this day or I'd have this and I'd have this misfire.
Yeah.
You know, and I think as you obviously get further into the game, it's like that's gotta everything just gotta
Sure.
dial tighter. And
So
yeah,
then
but I
so then
that was yeah, let's see, this is 2003. Honestly, some of this stuff when you're telling me about it and these other people are talking about it is like,
bringing it back.
yeah, and it's some of it I have to really like go back there a little ways and find.
Well, just the amount of baseball that is in your head that you've seen, that you've experienced is crazy too. So I'm gonna do my best to rejog your memories here. But then, yeah, getting picked up by the Brewers and the Beloit Snappers where you were sent. And this is a team that had some dogs on. This is Ricky Weeks. This is Prince Fielder. This is
Hmm.
the Midwest League. I'd love to hear about how that experience went for when you got. Let's just hear about how you were feeling when you were shoving with the Kings to then getting picked up. How'd that go?
I mean, I think another thing, there was a guy, it's jumping back in there as you talk about
Yeah.
it. There was a guy,
Go.
his name was Matt Mitchell. He was like a Yoda. I'm getting goosebumps from this guy, and I got Yoda in my hand here,
I
but
saw that Yoda cup, man. That's what's up.
that's wild. But
And you've kinda become a Yoda yourself.
he's a beauty, right? And he was a scratch golfer. He was a weapons expert in the military. You know, jumped out of airplane. You know, all the things that. And he was from San Diego, but I met him through Fletch, and I met Tom House as well. So they were all
Oh,
kind
Tom
of, we
House.
did a camp, and it was like and my high school coach, Mike Paul, who we talked to, like
Yeah.
everybody was kind of in this little thing, but it was Matt, Matty made this CD, or I guess, yeah, it'd be a CD because we had CD players.
Classic,
Eh,
buddy, yeah.
Oh, wow, that one, yeah, makes you feel something.
Yeah,
Anyway, so I'm listening to this CD, but it was basically, it would take you under a little bit with some breath work,
really.
and then you'd go into your mind and he'd take you through like, you know, basically your stuff, and your name was in there, and it was this little recording that's deep in my subconscious. But
Oh, cool.
at that time, things just got a lot better because I had that big wake up call from, you know, being hypnotized, if you will, where,
Yeah.
and then getting into the process of playing the game one pitch at a time. And
Ooh,
that process really, I mean, still to this day is one easy to talk about but hard to do.
sure.
But it was getting better at that.
Yeah, okay. So
And
then
I think the mental side really kicked in. Since you asked, I think that's when it kicked in, was probably about 2002 and a half, 2003, that leading up to that year.
okay, then take me through it then, like, what it felt like to get there. Obviously, a rough outing the year before in your first taste of pro ball to showing up and
I
absolutely
mean, it was
dominating.
completely different, honestly.
Yeah,
Just, I mean, it may have looked similar, but just as far as the calm and
yeah,
getting back to, because I think it was literally just, I just had that one day of that blur,
yeah,
and then it was like, and maybe it was a blessing, like looking back on it, that I did get let go and there was no more of that, and it was just
yeah,
like straight to training mode after that
wake up.
until that next season. It was like I talked to guys about this, is like when you're training, when you know it's time to like you feel like you're a wild animal ready to get out of a cage and it's time to
Mhm.
go compete.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, it's like you take your little break at the end of the year and then you
Sure.
start to ramp back up. And then it's like the new year hits and, spring starts to creep up. But it's like by that last couple weeks, like you've trained so hard, you've thrown so much, you're ready to go compete.
Yeah. Is that what you felt like
And
you were
and I
at?
was at that point.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think
Beautiful.
that's I had that full training season to lead up to the
Yeah.
playing season. So it's like once that happened, it was like, but it
On.
it was definitely different as far as like looking back, as far as like how much guys are able to do now. Like I remember my brother-in-law would remember this, but his name's Mike, but I had him standing in like a hitter in my dad's backyard and I was throwing into these archery targets
Yeah.
and I drilled him. And it was completely unintentional, obviously, but it was like he was part of that process of getting dialed into the
Yeah.
where I needed to be as far as my prep.
Oh, I love that. Speaking of brother-in-law, your mother-in-law got a hold of me on Facebook and said she loved part one. So shout out to uh to her. I appreciate that.
Let's go, the queen bee. I love it.
Yep. Yep, for sure. And then so then take me through I mean, you had from looking at your numbers, I mean, you had never dominated like that in college to be, putting up a
No, it was
0.79,
different. Yeah.
totally different. So then
hmm
when did pro scouts start coming around, or how did that transition happen? Or not pro, but affiliated, excuse me.
Well, I mean, you're around it, and people are. It's just a small world, and it was
Yeah.
like there was a guy. I want to, if I remember right, and no relation, but his name I want to say was Marv Gunderson, and he somehow was connected to. I want to say it was the Brewers, probably because that's where I ended up.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but it was like, the baseball circles are small, and our general manager there, the King, Joe Rosenhagen, but he was all that circle was kind of, they're all connected,
Ooh, yeah. So,
to people, and you're always like one person, especially in baseball. It's like when somebody's ready to, and you see it all the time. You go to these workouts or tryouts or whatever, and you just see these people that were there, and I think at that time that's where I was at.
for sure, that makes sense then. Um, so then take me through getting signed then by Milwaukee and how that went from there. That's what I'd love to hear.
So I think the big thing that sticks out in my brain right now is the first day I got there, I got put in the game, and it was like it was either one out or no outs, and it was a jam. It was like first and second or bases loaded or something like that, and I got out of it, and it was like thrown right into the fire, but it was not on purpose. It
Yeah.
was like something had happened with the guy that was supposed to throw in front of me, and he had a rough day or something, and then it was like, let's just throw this guy in there and see what happens. He's like, in 2014 I had a similar situation, but it was like, you're like the JIC guy, you're the just in case,
Ah,
because it was like I was signed as a free agent, came in, you're sitting next to, if you name off all those guys
yeah,
were drafted by that organization. All
right,
those guys were an investment. I came in for, I don't know, probably whatever it was to buy the contract from the
right.
team, which was probably very minimal.
Yeah,
So it's like you're the just in case. You're
just in
the
case. Yeah,
fill the hole, and it just happened that it happened the first day I was there,
right
which
into it.
was which was wild. But yeah, it was looking back, it was awesome. Just being around all those guys. I can think back to a lot of those personalities, and the clubhouse stuff,
Yeah.
and just all the things.
Tell me a little bit about, obviously, Prince Fielder and Ricky Weeks went on to big league careers, big time players. Do you have any good like Prince stories, or just even like just watching him go about his business and seeing that light tower power? I always loved his swing, the toe tap, the flare. Big fan.
I mean, he was just awesome to be around. I think as a pitcher, and him being a hitter,
Yeah,
it's like obviously we're in different places a lot, but there
sure.
was shagging and BP with those guys. I think we talked about it a little bit, but it was like watching him, and then Ricky Weeks too would hit the ball so hard,
Yeah.
and there was other really good hitters on that team too, but it was like you could tell with Prince. And I think for me, growing up a Tigers fan and seeing his dad
Yeah.
bop the ball, and then hearing legendary stories about him, like at age 12 hitting him, on the roof at Tiger Stadium.
Hmm.
And then it was like you're seeing it, but it was like, it was being in that dream. It was one of those things where it was just being part of it. But he was a joy to be around as a teammate. I mean,
Yeah.
he ran bases really, really well, which,
Yeah.
I
For a
mean,
big
for
boy.
a bopper, it's like when he
Yeah.
would run, there was several times where I remember being very impressed by him.
Sure. Absolutely. And let me ask you this.
And I
What?
want to say maybe he paid a fine for us all one time because he trucked a guy at home plate, and I happened to be the guy that was protecting the catcher,
Yeah.
down in the bullpen. And of course, I run in there, right? And it was like, and I think if you left the bench or if you ran in there, you got a fine or something like that. And I feel
Yeah.
like, yeah, if I remember right, he took care of all that for whoever
Good move on
was
him.
involved in that.
Sure. Um, I'm curious to this. What is your propulsion system at this point, or your motivation? Is it I'm trying to get to the big leagues? Is it I'm just trying to keep playing another summer? Obviously, probably over time it evolved, but where are you at mentally in terms of that?
I mean, I think it was always wanting to play in the big leagues for sure, and
Okay.
I think it was the better I got at thinking about that kind of stuff, the better I became on the field.
Yeah.
Where it was, I'm sure in my mind then it was definitely something that I was thinking a lot about. Honestly, at this point, it's like I've been so brainwashed to be one pitch at a time that it's like
Yeah.
to think about something beyond that would be like, I think my motivation or my challenge would be to see how present I can be.
Ooh. Yeah.
So like, and I think still to this day where it's, and I get challenged because Sifu's in town right now, and he was training us the other day, and we're doing crane, and it's, he's telling us stories about crane sleeping on one leg,
Hmm.
and we're just meanwhile standing there on one leg, and it's very challenging, right? Where it's like after a while, you're just standing on one leg, and your legs parallel, and it looks so simple, but deep down, it's like if your mind is somewhere else, you're dropping it, and
Yeah.
he's sitting there and he's watching, and he's like, talking us through finding our breath and
Yeah. I
being
love it.
right there,
For
and
sure.
then it's a good wake up call that no matter how many times you've practiced this, it's still going to challenge you,
Yeah.
especially if you go all in. But we did some animal flow the other night too, and it was real, 'cause it's like you get into it.
I love it, man. Any memories or anything stick out from this year in affiliated that you feel like are worth sitting on or talking about or anything like that?
I'm like, I just remember being really, it was a good group to be around, and it kind of gave me a good glimpse of where I wanted to be.
Yeah. And obviously you belonged. Pretty strong stats there, about a 4 ERA, about 41 innings. How did this year end? Was there an injury in here somewhere, or when did the injury occur?
No, we actually lost. It was either game 5 or game 7. Or I remember it because I threw well in the playoffs.
Okay.
I remember our manager was Don Money, which was probably one of the highlights as well, just being around Don Money.
Okay.
He was just awesome, like just baseball, you know, history, but also just a great guy to be around
Yeah.
the game,
So
which was
then,
cool. So I think just thinking about that, but then went home, went to spring training the next year,
yeah.
got released the last day of spring training, and then went back to Kalamazoo.
How did you feel like you performed in that spring training? What was your experience like there?
I went early. I got to go stay with a guy, Eric Henderson,
Yeah.
and just to acclimate and stay in it. And I think looking back on it, I definitely, you can feel the pressure of what's going on as far as the chopping down process, like when all
Yeah.
that starts.
For sure.
Like I think leading up, that was And I had been around that before, but not at that level,
Sure.
you know. And then like I think that the first time I got released, it was a shock for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
Painful,
versus
sad, or where were you at mentally when that hammer dropped?
I think just surprised, so surprised, you know. And
Right.
it was, I mean, the way the place I was in as far as physically, it just kind of rolled off my back, to be honest. And it was like, okay, what's next? And it was like, I'm just gonna
Right.
keep
Did you
going.
think
And part of it too was the meeting we had. They encouraged me to go back and keep playing.
interesting? Like
And actually,
as they cut you?
when I got hurt, it was actually back in Chillicothe, Ohio, when I got hurt. But they were in the clubhouse there, and they were going to send me to Huntsville the next day with my with
Really?
where I was at, because I was mowing the next year.
They were going to bring you back again.
Yeah, they were going to sign me.
That would be the most zinger thing of all time. So you find yourself back with Kalamazoo after that spring training. Go back then.
And
Strong year,
I had
man.
switched from being I was primarily a reliever, and I want to say it was my fourth start. Yeah, I was starting then the next year, and it was my I want to say it was the fourth start, maybe the fifth start, that when I
Yeah.
broke my arm.
Really?
Hmm.
What's before we get there? This would have been right about the time when you met your wife, Brittany.
Yeah.
That's what I have. Okay,
Hmm.
perfect. Let's play that. Like, I got a little clip about how you guys met, and then we'll roll from there. You cool with that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Here we go.
See
The
see what
lovely
we got.
Brittany Huizinga. Here we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually worked for the Kalamazoo Kings baseball
Hmm.
team when I was young and in high school. My friend's dad owned the team. And so I worked in the front office and I ran their team shop. And I actually met John for the first time in 2003, but I met him the day that his contract got picked up by another team. So I was 17 at the time. It was very much so like, I'm John, nice to meet you. And he left the next day to go play for a different team.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward a year, it was 2004. I had just graduated high school and I was no longer working for the team, but my dad and I went to a game and we were sitting behind home plate and John was charting at that game. And I didn't recognize him at first. But my dad and I were sitting there talking to some other baseball friends, and John tapped me on the knee, and he was like, "Hey, do you remember me?" And I was like, "Not really, but it's nice to see you." And it just so happened that John's group of friends we had some mutual friends. And so we ended up kind of running around in the same group that summer. And I remember meeting him and just, I don't know, I guess fell in love is the best way to put it, pretty much immediately. It was not the same story for him though, because we dated for 4 years before we actually got engaged. And I remember him telling me that summer of 2004, he was like, "I don't want a girlfriend and I'm never getting married." And I was like, in my head, I'm like, challenge accepted. So here we are, 17. Well, we're coming up on 17 years of marriage, but we've been together. This June, it will be 21 years together, which is crazy.
Yeah.
What you got, Johnny? I'm so
Wow.
excited to play all these clips because you guys' journey is so beautiful.
That's
What
so
all you guys
crazy.
have
Yeah,
been through, I
heartstrings
love
there.
it. What you got, brother?
I said just heartstrings there, you know, that's funny.
Yeah, yeah. So, and
But yeah, I was definitely in that. I mean, I was locked in, as you will, you know, where it was as far as on the path that
yeah.
uh,
And I am friends with both of you guys on social media, and I so enjoy your wife. I think she's got a hilarious personality. She's really funny. She posts some funny stuff. She posted something the other day because obviously you met her very young, and it was something like, if you want to blame someone for my sassy attitude, you got to blame John because he's basically had custody of me since I was, 17, 18 years old. So she's hilarious. She's got a really cool traveling Instagram as well. So check that out. But
yeah, we like that. The whole backstory is just, it's funny
You got
Because
anything you want to
honestly,
share?
she just said she fell in love, which that's awesome. I never heard her say that. That's
Yeah.
because she was young, you know what I mean? It was like, and so it was not necessarily like she was trying to settle down and I wasn't trying to settle down. So neither one of us was really trying to do anything too serious, you know? But
Right.
like she said, we all kind of hung out that summer though. And yeah, there you go. Little seeds being planted.
Yeah. I love it. It's beautiful, man. And another strong summer. Did you switch over? I think you said this already, but were you primarily relieving, or what was your role for them this
So I
summer?
think just originally I was relieving. This would have been 2003 in Kalamazoo and then Beloit, and then 2004 I was starting.
Yeah. Okay. But 3.86. Does anything stand out from this year? Any experiences or what you feel? But I guess you said that you were about to get picked up again, and then you got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go there? You ready to?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was. I think you also have clips from Brandon Rogers, where it's like Brandon Rogers was actually catching me the day I broke my arm,
I could play
which
that right now if you want to lead us into that. But that's what I have is I have
we were together for a while. So,
right. Do you want me to play that one? The broken arm?
well, I'm unsure what you guys talked about. So, I mean, but that is where he enters the story because that's what kind of sticks out in my brain
Yeah.
is, and I can kind of I'll tell you this, and then you tell me if you want to use the clip.
Okay. What you got?
But we basically we're at the facility. This is years later, and we're talking to somebody about it, or we're telling the story. And I threw. It was basically, I want to say it was the fourth inning, and I threw a pitch, and it made a noise, right? Like some kind of a noise.
Yeah.
But then I threw. It was either 12 or 14 pitches, and I finished the inning. And I'm walking off the field, and it was like my arm was at like a 90-degree angle, right? But it was like I remember I went from
Man.
the way I told the story was I went from 95 to 85. And Brandon's standing right there and he's like, and he's got no holds barred, right? He's a perfect catcher. He's an awesome buddy. He's a straight shooter though. And he's like, basically, BS, Johnny. He goes, the best part of the story that you're forgetting or missing or whatever. He's like, you threw a 95-mile-an-hour pitch, the pitch after you broke your arm. And I'm like, okay, like, we
Yeah.
just something like that too is how you remember it in that moment is probably a little different than how it could happen too, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like you remember it, but he's so funny. Yeah, maybe
Let-
we should probably play that
Let's
clip.
go.
Let's see
Let's
what
go
that
to
guy's
it.
got.
Brandon Rogers, right here. Your catcher from Indy Ball. Here we go.
The one story, I'm sure you heard it or not, but it was just, to me, it was an amazing story, was when he actually, they called it an avulsion fracture off his elbow. I think it was his ulna. We were in Chillicothe, and I was catching him, and the dude literally threw with a broken arm. So what happened? He threw a pitch. I think it was in the dirt or something. I came out there, and he was like shaking his arm. He's like, something happened, like something hurts. I'm like, well, can you get through this batter? He's like, yeah. And literally 3 pitches later, struck the guy out, walk in the dugout, and they pull him because his elbow is already like swollen up. And then he goes to the hospital, gets x-rays, and there's bone fragments floating around in his elbow. So just like the guy threw that, got an out, struck the guy out. Like, wow, that was determination where he literally broke his arm throwing a pitch, and then he still finished the inning. And that was with the Kings too, and that Chillicothe, that was Indiana. Yeah, that was an amazing thing to just like. I mean, you've had arm soreness, right? Bad elbow, bad shoulder. Like, it sucks. Can you imagine having broken bones? So,
and throwing through it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And at a high level, like he didn't let up. I didn't know it was broken. So yeah, the guy, his will and determination is second to.
There we go. That's the Brandon Rogers interpretation.
See, but like I said, we remember it different, right? Where it's like I think I threw and got a ground ball to get out of the inning, and he's telling me and he's probably right because I was in so much pain and just in a place, mentally where it was like, I mean, it was like, yeah, just full bulldog mentality, like ripping, just whatever you want to call that.
Did you know instantly that something was very wrong?
Yeah.
But you were like, I'm going to finish this inning?
Yeah. Well, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then coming in from the inning, it started blowing up, or once the adrenaline's starting to wear off and you're out of the inning, like, okay, what's going on here? Are you trying to reassess?
Well, I mean, it was like this, right? And honestly, in my mind, and it was, I think a little more of the backstory here too is I had some kind of something happened in a game, and I came in and I blew up the water cooler, and I elbowed the dugout. And this was like the start before this happened, or sometime in between there. It had to be the start before because I was starting.
Okay.
And at the time, I just thought nothing of it, right? And even through this whole process, in fact, it was literally like a year ago, or not even a year ago, probably 6 months ago, I was having some body work done by Quinn, and he's working on me. And I have this like flashback in my mind of that temper tantrum.
Really?
Right. But I think honestly, like, I think I was so embarrassed about how it had happened that, like, in my brain, it's like that didn't even happen.
Blocked it out. So
Just threw it away. Right.
that might
And
have been
then
the
it's
first thing
like,
that cracked something in there, or something like that.
that's the only thing that makes sense, like, to me, like, over now that I've had to kind of process it. But it was like,
Sure.
for years, it was a search for, was my training wrong? Was my throwing wrong? Was my, was there something that I was doing, versus it was almost a freeing thing to have this remembering of this little
Right.
moment in time, right? That,
For sure.
yeah, kind of
So
crazy.
then,
But that's kind of the backstory for, go all the way back. At the time, I thought it was Tommy John because that's the only thing I'd really ever heard of. You know what I mean? And it was in my brain. I do recall this. We went to the hospital. I'm in uniform, and the doctor was like, "We want to do an X-ray," and I'm like, the general manager's there with it. 23-year-old. Of course, I knew a lot, or how 22, something like that. Of course, I knew everything, right? And I'm like, why would you waste my time with an X-ray? Do an MRI. It's Tommy John, right? Like, it's like the only. And I think just. And then they came back and they show me the X-ray, and it's a. Brandon was actually a little bit off, but he's close. It was an olecranon fracture.
Not
So
an
I had.
avulsion. Gotcha.
Yeah, I had cracked off the tip of my elbow, but it was an acute fracture. If you look at the X-ray, there's no more bone touching bone, because I think probably because I continued to throw.
Interesting. Okay, so then what you find out you have this? What was the phrase that you just said? The name of the fracture?
Olecranon.
Olecranon. So then what's next?
Yep.
What do
It's
you
called
do
the
for that? I never even
olecranon
heard of that.
process, right? So the first 5 surgeons that we went and saw,
Oh, wow.
basically said I wouldn't pitch again. And then it was either the 4th or the 5th, somewhere around there. This is a long time ago, but
this is an absolutely pivotal point in your life.
It was, yeah. Yep. And basically there was a guy that said, yes, I think we can do it.
So they were always telling you, hey, we don't think you're going to be able to throw again professionally. Just not going to be the same after this.
Yeah.
And then you took that as what?
Well, I started training left-handed, but I also, there's no way I was hearing it. It was I think too ingrained in me at that point.
Yeah. So then you finally got
it was like, it's just another obstacle, whatever, you know what I mean? And I think.
So you finally found someone that saw your vision of coming back again? Or what did they tell you?
Well, and he just basically, he was like, I see it as like a kid who's like, I just did this with a kid who fell with a skateboard last week, and I just put 2 pins in and and he's like, I think you could probably throw again, or something along those lines. And I was like, that's all I needed to hear, and it was like,
yeah.
But before, I was like, there's no way I'm letting somebody touch me if they think this is like a career-ending type of a surgery. It's like, no, that energy's not even.
Didn't want that energy
in
even
this
on you.
space.
I love that. That's interesting.
No way. Like, just that thought, like, you know what I mean? Where it's like, if thoughts become things, and it's like, we're going to just put that out there. It's like, no, that's not part of this story here.
There is absolute power in thoughts or things. I totally agree. Keep going. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I actually try to not say dumb things or bad outcomes out loud, just because it multiplies the chance that they happen greatly. That's my thought, at least. That
Well,
could
I
be
think you
woo-woo.
have an alternative solution, right? Is like you could just go the other way with it and see what happens. I mean,
Yeah.
even if you get closer to something, I'd rather get closer to this than
Yeah.
closer to this.
So surgery happens.
So
What's next
surgery
after that?
happens,
What are we doing?
and I mean, Britt. This is when Britt really started to kind of take care of me in a lot of ways, and there's different things. Obviously there's different family stuff. I was also down in Kalamazoo a lot because of stuff, so it was my family lived close. Her family would help as well, and it was
Yeah.
I think more of it was still at that time like a friendly type of thing, but it was like the care was there, the heart was there, the process started as far as I think,
Yeah.
what those seeds being planted as far as where we are now, where it's,
Yeah.
she
Beautiful.
said 17 years married and, kids and all that fun stuff. So looking back, it was a huge blessing because had I signed, she would have gone off to college in Illinois and then I would have ended up wherever, well, I guess Huntsville.
Yeah. Interesting.
So
So
like in reflection, that nasty moment and all that stuff happened. It's like maybe there was
for the
something to come
best.
out of this,
Yeah.
maybe it was not the final lily pad, but it was one of them on the way that was going to be important.
Totally. That's totally in line with like the famous, Chinese farmer, the Dow farmer. Like what's good, what's bad. You never know if something in the moment might feel bad or that it's not, convenient for you, but looking down the line, it was absolutely pivotal for you in your journey. I've got you totally out of baseball in this year. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
At least
Yeah.
playing professionally. So how
Yeah. I mean, I
how
hung out because it was, let's see, I got hurt in June and I had surgery in October.
yeah.
So, I mean, I hung
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
I remember still being in the dugout a lot,
Uh-huh.
being around the guys. I think that was very helpful as far as my headspace,
Sure. So then what were you doing rehab wise or anything unique to try to get back here? I imagine you probably be getting into your
Uh,
toolbox here, discovering tools.
I have a stupid one I can tell you that
Let's go.
so my dad built me a bunch of weight stuff in the basement and we had this gym in our basement and this dumbbell rack, right? And this is maybe September after being hurt and I see these dumbbells and I'm like, I'm just going to try picking one up and just see like what can I do? Not a good idea. Not a good idea. But yeah, it was like and it just shot this like electricity through me
hmm
in a bad way. But at that time, honestly, it was just kind of waiting game. It was a holding pattern.
Let it heal.
No, because I knew there was going to need to be surgery.
I'm saying after the surgery, what did you do to start
Oh,
that
after the
process of
surgery.
coming
So
back?
after the surgery, I moved to Arizona.
Here we go.
So this was a whole nother kind of chapter here, but I got to Wes Crawford was my pitching coach. He had been in the Angels organization. He knew a guy, Keith Coker, who's a fantastic PT out here in Arizona.
Uh-huh.
And he basically got me connected somehow through there. And I moved to Arizona to rehab here.
And the rest is history. You've never
Oh
left.
boy. Yeah. Well, it's funny because some of my buddies came with me too. And the name of the trip was Say No to Snow. And they came out a little bit before me. And
Okay.
then I came out. I mean, I'd have to look back at pictures, but I came out sometime after because the surgery was in October.
Okay.
And I
And then
stayed back for a little bit. And then once rehab started, I moved to Phoenix.
now, were you doing anything new to you, unique, anything worth talking about in this rehab process?
I mean, I think a lot of it I basically did was the Tommy John rehab program
Really?
protocol because there was no protocol for this as far as what
No.
I knew as far as
Yeah.
there was one other guy that his name was Derek Turnbow
I
through
remember that name. Yeah.
Cheddar Biscuit, yeah, through
Yeah.
triple digits. But he had a similar injury.
Uh-huh.
I think his was a little bit different, but it was similar. and they had put pins in his elbow, and he happened to be rehabbing at the same place. He was with the Brewers. Some of the Brewers guys would be there too. So, uh, had some interaction with him, especially just, in the weight
Sure.
room area, or,
Yeah.
you're walking around and you're doing your rehab stuff. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, is just your typical, anybody that's been
Okay.
there knows exactly what I'm talking about. But
Sure.
it's a lot of the stuff nowadays though too that we do prehab wise, where
Really?
we have guys doing a lot of the stuff. Well, it's because you're working on
Yeah.
a lot of the little small things and learning to
Yeah.
control,
Mm-hmm.
the breath, what we call now the breath, the body into baseball.
Oh, I love that. The breath, the body, and the baseball. That's a line. Um, where is your head at during all of this? Are you feeling like I'm on a mission? I'm getting back to ball. Were you ever feeling discouraged by your progress? Anything along those lines?
Especially once I started throwing again, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it was definitely,
Square one.
there were definitely up, roller coaster days, but it was a challenge for sure, because it was a long time too. I'd have to once again look at a calendar, but it was a much longer rehab process.
Yeah. But then did you just keep improving and seeing little steps here that made you want to keep going?
I mean, I think I just had that internal drive that was kind of still firing, where it was like I was on that path. I mean, I
Yeah.
think mentally the stuff, I remember a day I had a breakthrough. There's another Jedi out here, but Zeke Zimmerman is his name,
Okay.
and he was, I think, with the Angels at the time. He's coached all over the place, but he was there watching some of his guys, and he
Yeah.
would just kind of, out of the corner of his eye see me, or I'm throwing to one of his guys, or you'd get out there and whatever, and he's just one day decides to say something to me, and it was one of those frustrating days. And he comes up to me and he's like, "You see this right here?" He's like, "This is like a brick wall." And he's like, "What I see is you keep banging your head against this wall." And I'm like, that related to me, right? Or I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh. And he's like, "How about instead of banging your head on the wall, how about if you figure out a way to either go over the wall, go around the wall, or go under the wall?" I'm
I
like,
love that. So
okay.
which route did you go?
Or, well, I think I probably ended up choosing the last one, but it was to go through it.
Teleport.
It was like, but there's some way, instead of like banging your head, it's like,
Yeah.
I think it was more of going through. But he basically talked to me, and it was a reminder, because I had read some of the books and I had had some of the things people had said to me, perhaps
Yeah.
minus the application at the time, but it was the idea of what can you control.
Uh-huh.
And I remember this because I wrote it on a sticky note, and it literally, I still have it in my brain. I can see it, but it was attitude, outlook, preparation.
Mm.
And basically he's like, along the lines of, I see the attitude, like, check, it's there, right? And it's like the preparation there, boom. And it was like the outlook, where it was like, it was me versus me, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it was like me beating up me
Yeah.
at that time versus like me helping me get a little bit better
Yeah.
through the process, or finding the little successes along the ways versus expecting the big results right away.
Ah.
Especially through the rehab process,
Oh
it
yeah.
can be grueling, right? It's grindy and gritty, and you're doing the same
Right.
thing, 3 days a week, and
Yeah.
you're
And it's
you've got this like restriction, I guess you'd just say, right? Where it's
yeah.
like in your brain, you just want to throw how you used to throw when you're
Right.
14 years old in your backyard.
A year ago you're throwing mid 90s, and now you're bloop, playing the little Tommy John game when you first start, where it's 10 feet, Nerf balls and stuff like that. It's got to be quite the process to be going through.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. No doubt.
So
But
you
but I think at the
obviously,
same time, a lot of the athletic training stuff that was happening at the time, and just the guys that I was getting to be around by osmosis,
yeah,
was was really good, especially overall, as far as my process, what it became.
yeah. And I imagine just going through this, has helped you so much in your coaching career too, because you've been through this really unique injury and had to go through this whole process of, figuring out your mind and your body to get back to a place. So obviously helpful, that journey as well.
What I think too, like sometimes it's something like we talked about with my Uncle Mike, where it was like, Johnny, you got ice in your veins, right? This
Yeah.
thing that was there, that even that feeling was lost, especially on that day where it was like I was blacked out, if you will.
Yeah.
But getting back to that after the injury was part of, because you're building up all these expectations and all
Yeah.
these things that maybe used to be, perhaps, versus like, once
Interesting.
again, it's getting back to that present, right where I am right now,
Yeah.
best I've got in this moment, versus, hey, I used to do it this way, or I used to do it that way. And then it's a different shift in your mind.
Well said. So you eventually got yourself to a place where the Calgary Vipers at least thought that you were professionally ready. Tell me about that.
All right. So this goes back to Brandon Rogers.
Yeah.
But Brandon, so I had gone through the rehab process. I was healthy. I was cleared. And Brandon and I had still stayed in the loop. And then we had a guy, Wes Crawford, that I mentioned earlier. And he was now up in Calgary as a pitching coach.
Okay.
And that's how we got linked back up. And Brandon and I trained together in San Diego.
Mhm.
And then we drove up to Calgary together
Signed, or were you trying
for
out?
spring training. I mean, it's always in indie ball. It's always
Right.
you're there. First of all, you're not getting paid for spring training. You might get meal money,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, everybody that's there potentially would have a contract if they kept them, but
Sure.
you get,
Now,
you get chopped down pretty quick there. So
that's the dang truth. Where
you've
were
had
you
a
at in
glimpse of
terms
that.
of on this comeback? Where was your arm at when you headed to spring training for this?
It was rocking.
Really? Like, were
Oh
you
yeah,
back in the same velo range?
I was higher.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh shit. Okay. I mean, you had a really strong year
and
here.
just consistently, that was. I mean, if you looked at numbers, I want to say that was probably my best year. I was an all-star that year. And I think minus a couple of outings, like, it would have been a really, really good year.
Yeah, 3.29 in 54 innings, 59 punchies. Exactly, a really strong year. What was it like playing up in Calgary? Any cool stories, experiences worth sharing from time up there?
I mean, I absolutely love Calgary. I mean, just the people up there, the experiences up there, the nature up there, getting to go out.
Yeah,
I mean, literally out your back door and see the river, or,
yeah.
drive 2 hours up to Banff for the Panther Rivers up there. There's
Hmm.
some spots that kind of I'll always remember.
Yeah.
As far as the baseball goes, I mean, we had some really good players. I mean, I got to throw. We had a couple really good brawls that year.
Oh yeah.
We had one. We had one against, it was Calgary and Edmonton, and they were, kind of like rivalries, anyways, as far as in other sports.
Yeah.
And I just remember the next day, it's like the seats were packed because they thought we were gonna like fight again, but it was, you know.
Right. Yeah. Not how that goes usually, but um,
No, but I think Brandon caught a lot of games that summer. I
yeah.
remember because there was a trade. We traded one of our other catchers. He was splitting time, and actually he's one of my good buddies, and we played together again later. But Adam Shorsher, he's got a facility up in Northern California.
Okay.
But they were kind of splitting time at the beginning of the year, and then Brandon, they traded Shorsh, and then Brandon basically caught every game the rest of the year, as far as what I remember.
Really? Are
Yeah,
you ready? Hey,
it was
I think this is
wild.
a perfect time for us to get to some Brandon Rogers clips.
Oh wow, what a beauty!
We've got a bunch of them here. I couldn't cut any of them.
I love throwing to him.
Let's go, man. These were so. Yeah, tell me before we get into his clips. Tell me a little bit about Brandon Rogers and your relationship, and before we get into his clips.
He had a fire. He had a fire about him, but also he was direct with me, and it was like a battery type of a connection that we like to talk about, where it's you're feeding off each other. but it was like he liked how I threw. I liked how he called the game, where it was like a lot of times, we're on the same page, if you will.
Yeah.
And, I like to pitch inside. I like to establish inside. He loved to establish inside, and then we'd work off of that. But he, just his body language and stuff back there too, and the way he'd fire the ball back at your face if you missed your spot by a little bit. So it would
wake up.
Yeah, it was fun.
All right, man. Let's go. Let's start off with
Let's
Brandon
hear what
Rogers.
he's got.
Yeah, as a friend. Here we go.
So playing with him evolved into a friendship, and I've definitely watched the guy mature from our first days to now as a family man and stuff. So he's diehard. He's loyal. He is all in, and he has a small circle, which is cool because we stayed in touch. He lived with me in San Diego when we were getting ready for Kalamazoo, and then same thing the next off season. So we've gotten really close, and to be able to have like a stand-in brother come in later in life, it's exactly what it was. And my family took to him, and I got to experience and be with his family back in Michigan, and then his current family now with his wife and kids. So it's been awesome to experience and watch. But at the beginning, he was all baseball. He was a bulldog. He was loyal to the team, loyal to his friends, and a protector. The guy, he would drill someone if they messed with his teammates. So, he was old school like that. And that's fun. I appreciate that.
Got anything? Keep rolling.
Pretty much spot on what we just said about him.
I know. I love it.
He was a bulldog too, no doubt. I mean, I remember he was in the paper with a guy in a headlock with the one brawl that we had, and it was classic. It was classic BR right there.
BR, here we go. BR turning point.
So at the beginning, no. I mean, he had his things, but at the beginning, he was a bulldog. He was your college pitcher, professional guy, like to have fun, went out and, we partied and played hard and worked hard and did everything. And then I think the turning point for him was health, really. I think he saw the benefits of, just being healthy and active and all that. And that's when it was like the free spirit, where he started looking into mental and meditation type stuff and, a more complete health approach to spirit and body and reality and stuff. So he's become that with education, with, practice. And so it's nice because I know the Johnny that's in there. Yeah. And he's not being held back or held down, but it's interesting how he can control it and get to this Zen-like place where, nothing affects him and it just rolls off his back.
Got anything?
He does know that guy in there. So for sure, that's funny. You have that connection, with your catcher too, where it's like when you're bam.
I love it. Next one is going to be called Always at a Big League Level. This is cool.
That's interesting, and it makes sense, right? You look at his resume, you look at what he's done, and then the players that he's, surrounded himself with that come to him now. And to me, it's like he's always held himself at a big league level. He's had that attitude, he's had that belief, he's had that ability. And so, there's an aura about him that people are drawn to. And so he gets it. He's not your typical coach, and he's not a cookie cutter coach either. He really analyzes the individual, and the guy had a vision. And he had a vision before anybody else had a vision of what he wanted to do, and he's making that happen, and he made it happen. And that's where I'm happy because this guy, when he was doing his own thing, and I'm like, what the hell is that's not going to pay the bills type of situation. And
look at him
here
now.
We are now. Exactly. He had a vision, he believed in it, and he brought it to fruition. Just being able to watch it is awesome.
So chills on that one, that you had a vision.
For sure.
Right?
For sure, yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, keep going, or you got anything?
Well, I think, a lot of that, too, is having that. He talked about having a small circle, but it's like when you have guys that are in your circle that believe in you, I think, just hearing what he says, it fires me up just hearing what he says, because once again, I only have my view, and I only see what I see, and a lot of times I'm pretty tunnel vision, so, he gave me goosebumps, my boy.
I love that. And, I love what you said in part one where you talked about this was cool to go back and kind of smell the flowers as you will, but you're going to be right back to the grind. But it is nice to take a moment from time to time to do something like this. Or I guess this is unique, but hear what people have to say. Next one is doesn't make sense. Here we go.
Well, that's kind of that's why we crossed paths, and it was like, I don't understand why this guy doesn't have a chance. And he had a small chance, but no one ever gave him a real opportunity, in my opinion. And it's a pleasure being a teammate. Is you get to see people like that, and it's also frustrating because there's plenty of guys in the minor leagues I watch get released, and they let our team in hitting, and you're like, what? So it doesn't make any sense, unfortunately.
Interesting there. Did you ever get a case of the bitters, when you had this kind of stuff that obviously should be affiliated in playing? No? Are you shaking your head no?
I mean, I would say I became a little bit of a victim 2006 for just a small moment, but Brian Kane was a guy that I got connected with over this time at some point through Fletch and Paul Reddick. And Brian Kane was coming up as basically studying under Ken Revisa, and he was a baseball player and he was doing mental stuff, and we just really connected. And the lifestyle and mindset stuff that he was teaching with me, like, snapped that out of my existence, where it was, because I would send him, at the time it was emails, which is funny, but I can just remember, because people would ask me, like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here? What'd you do?
Right.
Because there's certain, you see why certain guys are certain places, and it was
like what Jose asked you.
Yeah, well, and Mike Bush called me in his office. I remember when I was in Calgary, and it was at some point it was like, what are we not seeing here? Like, what did you do?
What are we missing?
And I, but I think, whatever. I think when Brian started the mindset stuff with me, where it was like, there's no way I was going to become a victim of any of those type of thoughts.
Right.
And it was more going to be like, take ownership and just, I mean,
something did come from
if
this year, though, right?
If there's any kids listening, it's just, I'm going to leave the end of the word off, but it's like the F it, right? Where it was like, I just remember so many different times where it was like, that was his response.
Yeah.
And it was so true in so many areas, where it was like, back to what Zeke had talked about. It was a reminder, right? And it was 2 years later, but it was, what can you control?
Yeah.
That's out of your control. Focus on what you can control. What can you control? Your attitude, your outlook, your preparation. And then it was like starting to write things down, like starting to schedule things, starting to detail things, but for me, it was not necessarily like I needed to see it on the wall as a calendar, but I was always a note taker.
Yeah.
So like, once I wrote something out, it was like, it would become, whether it was a morning routine or it was just little things throughout the day that I can control, the little things I can control, because the rest of the day, who knows what's going to happen, right? Especially in baseball, but life too, like the chaos of life. Sometimes if you focus on things that are outside of your control, it takes you out of your power.
Beautiful, man. Dropping knowledge here. Let's move on to, you got any more? What you got? Keep rolling, buddy.
I think keep rolling. But Brandon, he's a beauty.
He is a beauty.
He's got another one, or what?
We've got a couple more here, but I wanted to note that you obviously shoved in this year, and you ended up going with spring training with the Rockies after this, correct?
I did. Yes, sir.
So something came of this. Something came of this performance. It wasn't like it was totally unnoticed.
No, and I mean, there was times throughout the year too where it was like, there's, when you're playing and there's rumors you're going to get picked up or you're going to get signed, right? Or there's whatever. I made the All-Star team, and I remember I was supposed to get signed at the All-Star team.
Okay.
It was the rumor on the street, people saying whatever, and then it never happened. And then it was more like after the year that it had happened. But
okay, gotcha. And
guys do get signed, though. You know what I mean? It does happen. There's opportunities, and
yeah, absolutely.
It's a pretty regular thing, especially nowadays. I feel like they're using those lower level leagues and those indie leagues to be able to pull some guys out that are
a little more of a chance than it used to be. Next one is going to be called "No One Outworks Him."
So the guy, no one outworks. No one's gonna outwork him, and he changed me as an athlete with just the workouts we were doing, and I'm sure manimals come up or stuff like that where, we were doing those exercises with weight vests and throwing rocks and bear crawls and all that stuff. And it changed me. It made me a better player. I wish I would have known that earlier in my career. Yeah. But, that was from him. And one thing about him is he does the research. He digs in. He reads. He goes in depth into what he's either doing or wanting to do. And so, I feel safe asking him about stuff because I know he's done the research. He's always been like that. And I think also that's the part where I'd also heard him as a pitcher is he critique himself too hard. And, was my arm here? And it's like, dude, you just throw and let me analyze you. You just, get up there and throw. It for me is kind of the same thing as a hitter. Like, I think I got to the point where I knew too much about hitting. I became very robotic. And so, easily. The luxury I always said in the minor leagues was you look at all the Dominicans and they look like they play baseball stupid, but they never overanalyze. They just play the game. You know what? So,
well said.
So that's so yes, the guy is dedicated research, and he's gonna do it, and he's still doing it to this day. And he's in the shape he is in. He looks like he can still get up there and throw off the bump. That's just his work ethic.
Cool clip there. Pause it or keep rolling?
You can keep rolling.
Okay. We got a couple more here. Nothing was straight, and then a catcher's dream. And then I got one about Halo. Okay.
Oh, boy.
So we played – he came over the top and sidearm. We actually had – yeah, so we had signs to go for him to drop down, and we had a sign for him to stay over the top. So just depending on the situation, what we're trying to do, back in the Kalamazoo days, he was all over. He was where he wanted to be, and really a lot of movement. Nothing was straight, and that's part of the challenge of catching a guy like that is, I mean, you got to anticipate, and he's throwing hard. There's a lot going on, So I was always paired up with pitchers like that my whole career, so it was just a lot of fun to work with him.
Love that. That's interesting because we've talked about a little bit about how your arm slot has changed throughout the years. You even talked about your stone throwing, skipping slot, and that was cool to hear too.
Buddy.
But where were you at this point in your career? So you were changing all over the place, moving around?
Yeah, and I think, part of it was his imagination and my imagination would line up where it was like, because sometimes we'd drop down to throw up. Like we'd elevate late in the count, but drop down because a lot of times if you think somebody's going to drop down, it's probably going to sink. Yeah. And it was like we'd elevate or, we'd establish something hard in and break the drop down slider off of it versus like more of a tilty slider. So there was fun with that where it was like sometimes you almost felt like we were playing backyard wiffle ball.
I love that. Last one, this is this is called a catcher's dream.
A catcher's dream, at least for me, because I called games and I studied hitters and just baseball and all that. So he didn't throw anything straight. He had a heavy ball, and it was just constantly moving. And then he had too many pitches. So, so we kind of, dialed him in and stuff. But, yeah, he just is a bulldog up there, and he was coming at you with everything he had. And, he was a catcher's dream just because, I mean, he could be a closer, he could be a starter. He had a fastball, but he could hit you with a slider or his two-seamer. I mean, he was all over the place. It was great.
A catcher's dream. That might be the name of part 2. I always look for like some interesting thing that was said during this. Unless you have any objections, I really like that one.
No, I mean, that's funny. That's just from his perspective. I truly enjoy his perspective right there.
Beautiful. And then last one is
Give me flashbacks.
This is going to be called the Halo story. So I always ask these guys, do you have any stories worth sharing on a podcast? And this is the story he got. Here we go.
Oh boy.
Well, there's our first year Kalamazoo. I think he just got hurt with his elbow, so he didn't make the All-Star team. And I was actually coming off an injury. So me and we had one other guy, another buddy of ours who played ball with us out of San Diego. And he, when the All-Star break came up, we went up to his parents' house in Grand Rapids because we were just about an hour away in Kalamazoo. Went up there. It's the middle of the summer. And we didn't see sunlight for 3 days because we just sat there and played Halo 24 hours a day, ordered food and the pizza or whatever, and just it was the craziest. I never vegged out, sat around and did nothing my whole career. But with Johnny, we're shooting guns and playing Halo at his dad's house. Yeah, it was insane the hours we put into Halo. Like, now I just kind of chuckle because my kids now play Fortnite, which is basically Halo. You know, it's just like, well, I've been there before, and I was a grown man. I was an adult doing those video games 24 hours a day. So yeah, it was funny. That was one where we took advantage of that time and just yeah, we were gone. So it was cool. But I mean, you know, the guy is so warm. He invites us to his family's house.
Yeah.
You know, we met the guy, you know, a couple of months earlier at the beginning of the season. So, you know, we hit it off from the very beginning. So he's an easy person, as you know, to be around.
That concludes our Brandon Rogers clips. Incredible stuff. Obviously, your catcher, so cool hearing some of his unique stuff. You got anything before we keep on moving here, brother?
That's just funny because it's been so long since I've even touched a video game, but
Getting down.
do remember. Yeah, I do remember. And I want to say he'd never shot a gun before. And like
Really?
my dad's got a really cool setup at the house. So it's like we can just go out there. And I remember he loved shooting a shotgun because, you know, it was like the pump of it, you know.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome, man. So, you obviously did well enough to get picked up by the Rockies. Did that happen in the offseason? I'd love to hear how that went.
Yeah, so that happened. Yeah, that happened in the off season. I remember probably the funniest thing I remember is I threw to a guy. We were looking to get a catcher. We never got a catcher. So it was one of my buddies, and he's like, I'll sit on a bucket and catch you. So like he literally sat, and I remember dotting him up pretty good.
Yeah.
And I want to say they told me they're going to call me at some point in the next week or so, and then they called me like 7 minutes later and offered me a invite to spring training. But that off season I had gone a little crazy on some of my training, and I had bulged a disc in my back. I just was doing just something stupid. I think it was probably multiple things, right? It was trying to really yank stuff and just, you know, losing technique and, you know, stuff that you learn the hard way, right? But had bulged a disc in my back, and it kind of screwed up some of my stuff leading into spring training.
Oh, interesting.
And that was probably one of my biggest, I guess if you were to say if I could take something away way back then, it was like, dude, like train smart instead of like not just balls to the wall, hair on fire all the time. Like there's time and place for a lot of things. And I think this was one of my hardest lessons to learn, but maybe one of the most valuable over time, just because it was something I dealt with for, I mean, parts of almost 2 years.
Wow.
At least.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Really important for you to have learned that lesson, for you as a coach later on to impart that wisdom. Let me quote you right here, because I found an article, and this gives me goosebumps when I read it. This is you quoted: "When I signed with the Rockies in 07, there was a mutual buddy of mine who was a scout. And when I told him I was close to 30, he said, 'Oh, just hang him up. Close to 30, hang him up.' You said, or you thought, you have no idea who you are saying that to, man." Do you remember anything like this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What we got? Obviously, I mean,
Well, it was nowhere had that entered my mind at that, you know. And I think there was also a certain, I had been brainwashed enough by certain stuff I'd read too. Like, I think we talked about this before, but Satchel Paige's quote where it's like, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? Right. And it's like, how old would you be? And it's like, and what's this thing where it's like, yeah, that might be the norm. But like at this point, I think I had already dealt with enough adversity to know that something like that was just a whatever thought.
That's beautiful, man. So
But I mean, I heard that a lot, you know. I definitely heard that a lot from many different people, where it's like, time to start that next chapter of your life, man. Or, you know, hey, you got responsibilities, or hey, you got this or that, you know. And I think along the way, it was like, at this point, I had Britt by my side, and it was like, and she was never pushing me in that direction, where it was like, it was feeding a dream instead of anything else, where it was like the opposite of that with the other, where she encouraged me, you know, and gave me the space to be where I needed to be to do that. Cause there is a lot of sacrifice to train as much as you need to train, and to mentally be in the space you need to be in.
Well said.
and she
Yeah.
was always supportive along. I mean, even to this day, like, I
Yeah.
mean, I might have to have a really good conversation and take her out for her, favorite dinner and some wine. But like, if I said, hey, I'm going to go play, you know,
That might be a
for
Disney World
for
trip.
for a month or two, yeah, there'd be some, but she
I
would
think you got to take
still,
her on to
I
Disney if you're
think
going to
she'd
play
still
again.
hear me out, so.
Dude, I want to say when I spoke with her, that was one of the most touching parts of it was that she clearly had supported you through everything. It was, and tough circumstances. She talked about you guys being in like little tiny apartments with all your kids and like living off indie ball money. And it never sounded like she was like, hey man, we need to be done with this. Let's move on to the next part. It was always, how can I
Literally
support
not
you?
even
I
one
love
time,
you.
not even one time.
Right?
Yeah. Hmm.
What an incredible partner she sounds like. We're going to get to her. I'm saving her clips towards the end of your playing stuff here, but they are so touching, so impressed with you guys' relationship, beautiful. So how did that spring training go then? You said you were kind of compromised
I mean,
back wise.
it was all right, but I mean, I had kind of resorted to being more lower with my slot and just kind of, where I felt safe, I guess you could say, because of the back stuff where
Yeah.
it's just, if I go back and look at the video, it's like I see in the delivery where it was just different than,
Yeah.
especially the year before in Calgary, where it was like um,
Yeah.
a whirlwind versus it was like very controlled and more like placing. And I still got, a lot of weak contact, but it was a lot more contact than.
Yeah. Then missing.
Mhm.
Okay. So then
Well, and I
got
think then previous too, where it's like when the swing and miss stuff goes away, it's a different game,
for sure.
which was
Absolutely.
also part of my mature, the
Yeah.
maturing of me as a pitcher was part of that, because there was a couple different times in my career where it was like the velo was would dip,
Right.
and then it was like, okay, now I got to learn how to spin or take off or,
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. All the
locate,
adjustments you've had
maybe
to make over
locate.
your
Wow,
career.
that'd be a good idea, so.
Right. Yeah, I mean that is a crossroads that pitchers go through of if the stuff isn't there, can you learn how to pitch? Can you finesse? Can you figure stuff out? Can you still get hitters out? So that's a beautiful part of your journey for sure. Did you get where at in spring training did you get released or was that a tough moment for you?
Yeah, it was the last day again. It was a bit of a surprise, but at the same time, it was like when things started to kind of chop down and you'd see the numbers and you'd see certain things, like I was aware that I was definitely on the fence.
Mhm.
As far as I also felt like I was at a lower capacity of who I was, so I think my confidence level was less than what it was, especially once I ended up signing to go to St. Paul,
Yeah.
and I still dealt with the process until, shoot, I want to say it was like halfway through the year, but I started getting into a lot of yoga. But I
Oh,
had a moment in St. Paul where I actually went down on the field and had to be like carried off the field because that same disc.
you're back.
And then basically was another little funny story, but where they were like, if you keep pitching, you're not going to walk past the age of 30. Like you need to stop pitching.
And then you obviously heard that differently.
Well, I was just like, yeah, whatever. Like, especially by this point, I was like, but there was literally, I remember like having to crawl to the bathroom at night. Like there was literally, and we had, yeah, this was a unique housing situation story, but it was an extra player or something. And we had like the laundry closet. We took the washer and dryer out or whatever. And it was like, you could sleep in the laundry closet.
That so sounds like an indie ball thing, doesn't it? That's like the most indie
It's
ball thing I've
funny.
ever heard.
Yeah, but then it was just like I started to get into like things like, inter-abdominal pressure and different
Oh,
things where it was like, you start to learn, like for me, it was like, okay,
great
well,
thing. Yeah.
what's the solution here versus like, what's the problem here? It's like, what's the solution? It's like, okay, we need to build, you know, some kind of and it just changed the way you think about. I
Yeah.
think at the time I was really more belly driven with my breath versus
Uh-huh.
like feeling like I'm breathing into an inner tube 360 degrees around my belly button.
Yeah.
And it's
That's like
like being able to
intra-abdominal
put
pressure you're
pressure.
talking about.
Yep,
Yeah.
all that fun stuff. And it turned into when you talk to Bo Brisky, like breathing through your balls, like the different stuff where it's like there's different, or breathing through your toes, or you know what I mean? However, there's different ways to say it, right? But that all kind of stems from,
Yeah.
crazy things happening. I think too, like once again, things that naturally probably happen, and then
Yeah.
you go away from them because you have like an injury type of thing, and then you,
Yeah.
instead of taking care of the injury, you kind of, there was multiple times, kind of like the pitching with a broken arm, but it was like I would push through
Yeah.
some stuff that maybe if I was, whatever the word is, either less of a bulldog or smarter,
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
you would have, or even at times I'd say more in tune.
Yeah.
Like as I've learned how to listen more to my body, especially now, like when I'm training, it's like I can say, is it worth me
Right. Pushing through this.
blasting myself? Let's say it's
Yeah.
supposed to be a high intensity day and I'm going, and it's like, if my body's telling me no that day,
Today's not the
I'm like,
day. Yeah.
okay. And then get
So,
back to
dude,
my low intensity, medium intensity, and see if I get back to that high intensity my next time. But at the same
self-regulation.
time, it's like sometimes the body just says,
Yeah. I, dude,
rest,
I
rest,
could not
and you
agree with
start
you
to
more.
listen.
Learning to self-regulate. I'm a big exercise guy still. Learning to self-regulate, especially as I've gotten older. Like you can go into the gym with an idea, but your body might tell you, or your nervous system might not be revved up that day to do something. And to listen to it has been a huge thing for me. Did you ever get into any kind of like reverse hyperextensions or anything like that for healing your disc, or is that a tool that you've ever used?
Yeah, and it was like a lot at the time. It was a lot of yoga, but like
Okay.
definitely, yeah. I think anything in reverse. We do a lot of things in reverse.
For sure. That posterior chain, so important. So St. Paul Saints, this is so cool. I actually got to play there when I was on the U.S. military all-star team. And just for those of you that don't know, a very famed um, independent team. They were in the American Association for a long time, but JD Drew played there, Daryl Strawberry, Kevin Millar, Kerry Lightenberg, Jack Morris, Jason Veritek, Stephen Drew. These were guys that a lot of times, if they didn't sign out of the draft, that's where Scott Boras was sending guys, for a year to kind of be the in between. But a really cool storied program. Shoved there 3.83 in 36 games, 51 innings. Tell me a little bit about this year. Besides, obviously, you were dealing with some back stuff, but played pretty well.
Oh, I loved playing there. It was awesome. It was George Samus ran the bullpen as well as any team I ever played for, but he brought in three closers that were closers from the years before, and he just established like seventh, eighth, ninth inning roles for us.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to necessarily be seventh because some days it'd be before that, but it was like a lot of times on that team, my role was come in when there are guys on base,
Mm-hmm.
the starters coming out, come in and see if you can put out a fire.
Yeah.
And then we had a couple of studs behind me that were closing, the eighth and the ninth usually, if especially if we were ahead. So that was a fun year. George did a good job of letting guys kind of do what they needed to do. So like especially that year I was dealing with some things with my back,
Yeah.
but I could go in the clubhouse and like ride the bike and like get myself all juiced, ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then I could go out and rip.
How did you feel like the competition was here versus some of your other stops in indie ball?
That was a good league. There was a
Yeah,
lot of good players in that league for sure. Yeah.
for sure. Do you have any other experiences from this year you'd like to speak on? Otherwise, I'm kind of excited to get to this. Is what I think you went to winter ball in Mexico after this.
Yeah, but I think just one of the big things that I took out of that year is our games are all televised. So like
Yeah.
I've I got to see the most video I'd ever seen of myself. So I got to start seeing like what the ball was doing out of my hand versus
Yeah.
like, in the past we'd use a video camera from the side or we'd use a video camera from the front and you'd look at the delivery, but I think it changed part of how I saw pitching,
Ooh.
especially for myself, because I saw how my ball moved versus like
Yeah.
people tell you your ball moves
Right.
versus when you see your ball move. And it was like, oh, okay. Like I see what they're saying. And then it helped me as far as like my visuals.
Of like
So
what
my
you wanted to do and how
visualization
you
stuff
saw
kind of
yourself.
even changed. Yeah. It was
Interesting.
because I could go and I could watch the video.
Yeah.
So that
Okay.
was a game changer for me. Definitely.
What was your pitching repertoire at this point? Like what all pitches were you throwing?
Multiple slots, a lot of sinkers,
Yeah.
sliders, change up sometimes.
Okay.
but a lot of sinkers.
Okay, cool. Is
I think
this when we
at
get
this
to?
point too, I had started to really. We had some. There was, I mean, Marcel Longmire was a catcher on that team. I loved throwing to. Uh, the same kind of thing though, where it was like we'd do a lot of different like hard in, soft away, or up and down, or in and out. There was a lot of we could we could play with different sequencing and different stuff, and he was creative.
Yeah,
Versus like I was never the guy that it was just like, hey, fastball away, something off of that. It was like I had a little different way I like to pitch.
I'm with it. Is this winter ball now? Mexico?
Yep. So this is winter ball.
Let's
Got
go,
to
man.
play with a guy, Derek White, who
Okay.
was a scout, but also a player. He had played in the big leagues. He played for the Rockies, big power hitter, but he had played down in Mexico, and he had sent me down to Mexico. And this is where I got like some good advice from like Matt Hammonds, who was a good buddy of mine, and he was like he
Yeah.
had pitched down there, and he just kind of prepped me for some things on the field, off the field, just different ways, because at the time I think there was maybe like 5 or 6 imports on the team,
Uh-huh.
and then the rest are people that live there and are from there, and
Take me through it, man. I want to hear what this experience was like. I mean,
I
obviously,
mean it
guys
was
go down there and
amazing.
it's like a different world.
Yeah, so I mean I got to go with Joey Gomes was one of the other guys that I went with, and I want to say we had already played against each other, and we ended up playing against each other for years, and we're good buddies. I love Joey, but and then the other one was Fernando Valenzuela Jr., and
Oh, wow.
we had played together in St. Paul. At the end of the year, he came in for like the playoffs. A lot of times you make the playoffs and you bring in a couple, uh, hitters or an arm or something from wherever, and he was awesome. Absolutely love playing with
Yeah.
those guys. But it was a big learning curve as far as the culture went, because the culture was obviously different. It was like we were surrounded by sugarcane fields, and
Hmm.
it was a smaller city, right? Like in the jungle,
Yeah.
basically. But the people were awesome. I remember staying at the hotel, like they took good care of you, and it felt like you were family. They made you feel like family.
Yeah.
And then the baseball was good. The energy was fun in the stadiums. And I think the most fun I had was interacting with some of the younger guys too, because they'd see some of the stuff. Joey and I would do a lot of the workout stuff together, manimal stuff, and there's videos on YouTube you could see about like backwards bear crawling up the stadium stairs.
Really?
We'd like sprint on all fours with like a rubber band, just
So
some stuff that was.
you're getting out there a little bit already. Like in obviously when I say that, like there was the backyard pitching lab where you're doing some unique stuff. So you were already doing some unique
I'm
stuff.
past that. Yeah, I'm way past that. Because I mean, one of my good buddies, Mark Friends, he was a strength coach with the Twins,
Yeah.
and he's got a gym in San Diego. He's awesome, but he's one of the starters of the Manimal stuff. And we had been buddies. He played on the Grand Rapids A's and was a little bit younger than me,
Yeah.
and he trained me starting in like 2004, and it started with more like assessment type stuff. And I always remember he did this an assessment on me, and it was like D, D, D. Like there was so many different areas, especially in like some of the planes of motion and just some of
Yeah.
the different stuff that I started to learn about. Uh, but he was a big push in that direction. So
Oh,
like
cool.
the Manimal stuff really was 2004. Then the San Diego stuff with Brandon out in San Diego, we did a lot of it. And
Okay.
then it went up to Calgary,
Yeah.
and then it carried through to St. Paul. We did a lot of different stuff, and then it definitely went to Mexico because that's all we had. I
Yeah.
always remember we had a bands and a jump rope,
Dude. Some of the best workouts are
but we
when
would
you
just
have limited
crush it.
equipment and figure it out.
Yeah, and like in our room, I remember like flipping the beds up and like having the floor, or like using the bed to step up on, or do push-ups on, put your feet on,
Yeah.
or just you got creative. But
Yeah.
also I think we shared a drive, and
Yeah.
we shared this dream of we were using the opportunity there, yes, to play and compete, but also to get better and to learn, more about ourselves, I think, in that culture too, where
Yeah.
it was like, I would carry around, my wife will laugh at this, but I had a picture book with like words in, English to Spanish translation, just so I could, I was
Yeah.
definitely probably
Figure it
looked like
out.
a tourist or something, but yeah.
Yeah. So how are your teammates looking at these workouts? Obviously, probably most of them are still very much doing conventional stuff, and you're doing all this out there stuff. How was that looked at, talked about, received? Anything?
I mean, I think a lot of it was kind of done in the shadows, It's like we were never doing it A to be like seen,
Right
and
in
then I
the
think
right.
B2, we were kind of doing it in the shadows, which, might have been our hotel room, or it might have been we showed up early, or it might have, So
Yeah.
I think, but there were young guys that definitely gravitated towards it, and it was never, and I think it never will be for everyone,
Sure.
but there was definitely some guys that would come in. I think especially when they saw what it could turn into on the mound too, where it was like, oh, I see why that was that weird thing you were doing with your, your breath or whatever, the
Makes
different, and
sense.
it's like, oh, that came out
Yeah.
like that. Oh, okay. Like that's why you did a box breath for 10 minutes before the game and you looked like you were on another planet or whatever, like just
That's perfect. Yep.
different things.
Okay. So was it overall, you say, a good experience for your career going down there to Mexico?
Loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I've got you back in Calgary for the next year in 2008. Yeah, I got you at
hmm
year 7, 2008, back to Calgary. How did you end up back there?
It's a great question. I feel like I talked to several teams that off season. And I think Calgary was just, I loved it. I loved
Yeah.
the city. The, I want to say it was an opportunity to come in and close again.
Okay. Is that the
So,
the, the
and
the place where you
I
felt
liked the
most
mitting
comfortable?
stuff, but I loved closing. Closing was fun, and I think looking back, probably my favorite role was coming in with guys on base,
Yeah,
but also there was just something to the coming in and getting those last 3 outs.
for sure. For sure. So is there anything you want to cover with Calgary? Do you feel like we've kind of covered your kind of Calgary career? You spent parts of 3 years there. Is there
I
anything
just
from this
think a
year that
lot of
stands out?
great teammates, and I mean, I feel like the guy who owned the team, his name was Jeff Gidney, but he was a very generous guy. Like I remember early on, it's like because we're making peanuts, right?
Sure.
But it was like there was at least a couple times that he helped us with flights, like to bring Brit in, or
Oh,
just or he
nice.
took care of something, or there was some generosity there, and it was I definitely I have some lifelong friends that I've definitely made
Yeah.
on those teams, and I think just yeah, it was I'm very thankful for it. I'll say that.
Beautiful. So what are you doing in these outside of you went to winter ball? Like what are you doing in the off season to make money to keep floating by?
Training kids and
Yeah.
doing camps, and I was valet. I used to valet for the Phoenix
Yeah,
Suns,
that
for the
story.
players and the owners and the VIP whatever's the garage down under. So
Yeah. Any interesting stories from your time valeting for any of those guys?
I mean, I just remember running up, and like it was such in my mind I was training, where it was like
Oh,
we were running up and down the ramps to go get
yeah.
cars. But it was like, some of the guys would, they'd kind of like jog, but it was like I was sprinting up those. I remember people probably looked at me like I was crazy,
Losing it.
but it was like, yeah, I had my jump mans tied up tight, and I was sprinting up and down those things, bringing in cars, huffing and puffing. Looking back, that was probably funny. But yeah, I got to park a lot of cool people and kind of just
Yeah.
get to have some short but cool conversations with people.
Sure. Yeah. Um, so then we can move on then unless you don't want to, but let's go year 8, 2009, 3 teams whirlwind here. Calgary, Winnipeg, which I
Hmm.
see Bill Pulsifer was on the roster there, and then Rockford in the Northern League, and I have no clue whether these were trades, releases, what happened here. So we're going to figure this
So I
out.
think it was Schaumburg. So at the time, I want to say, what was it? There was some type of an instance, and I had I figured out I had bone chips in my elbow.
Okay.
But at the time I didn't know what it was. But I was having difficulty going for more than one inning. And I remember
Schaumburg, not Rockford, Schaumburg.
Yeah, Schaumburg. Yep.
Yep.
Rockford's coming up later. But
Right.
so I was in Calgary and I got traded to Winnipeg. And then I got traded from Winnipeg to Schaumburg. So I had a previous manager, Mike Bush, that was my manager in Calgary. And I want to say it was probably a trade that was one of those ones I'm talking about where it's like player to be named later.
Right.
And when it turned out being a blessing in disguise because kind of how it worked out, especially back home too, with it was closer to home and some of that stuff. But it was definitely a whirlwind. Like I remember I drove by myself from Calgary to Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, slept in my car. And then I remember there was like a car somewhere in Winnipeg that it was like I was in my car sleeping and somebody was breaking into a car like three cars down. And I was like, what am I doing right now? And I'm like, grabbing baseballs for weapons just in case. But no, I definitely remember a whirlwind. I remember at that time I was pitching in some pain, which it kind of turned out that it was like the doctor described it to me as shrapnel from the original surgery where it was like, yeah, they went in and put pins, but it was like, and he basically went in and they did, what do they call it? The smaller type of a surgery. I forget what the name of it is, but they went in and removed that, kind of like smoothed it out, if you will.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Then, you ended up with Schaumburg. Is that where you kind of finished the year out?
I finished the year up in Schaumburg. Yep.
Okay. How was that experience? I actually ended up playing for the Schaumburg Boomers, so we were in the same stadium, just years apart.
I remember playing with guys I had played with before. There was kind of some reunion tour going on there and a couple of guys that I had known from earlier in my career. So I remember that year as being like a reunion tour. Felix Jose was on that team.
Yeah.
And we had played together in Calgary, and I absolutely love that guy.
Okay.
And then there was a guy, Jason Richardson, that was on that team that I had trained with Mike Paul, like way back when.
Yeah.
So we kind of got to play together, and then and then playing for Mike Bush again, he was a fiery competitor. He was a guy that played football and baseball.
Yeah.
And he had a farm in Iowa, and my dad had a farm in Iowa, and he was a deer hunter. So like they had, that little connection. So
for sure. So you end up staying in the Chicago area, coming back the next year, playing for the Rockford Aviators. 3.64
Rockford Riverhawks. Riverhawks,
sorry,
we were called.
Riverhawks.
No,
they became the Aviators. Riverhawks.
Oh,
yes.
Did they? Okay.
They became the Aviators years later. Apologies. So 3.64, 47 innings. Randall Simon was on that roster. Strong year. Any cool memories from this year? What stands out?
I just remember that was like a split year for me, where it was like the first half, that whole off season, I had that elbow cleaned up, and it was still like kind of tuning it back in. And I remember my slot was a little high for the first half, and then something kind of clicked, and I mowed the second half. Like if you looked at the numbers from the first half to the second half, it was completely different.
Shoved.
And it was that was a fun team. It was, man, if you look it up, there's a lot of transactions. Like I want to say there was only maybe 3 guys that were in the bullpen that were still there
really
throughout the year, maybe 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah.
Just a lot of transactions, a lot of
those rosters can turn over in independent ball. I remember I spent a couple years in indie ball, and like there were times when I was like, today's the day I'm getting cut,
That might have been, I mean, I'm pretty sure Yuma is probably the most, because it was like they cut like 50 guys in one day on a whiteboard. Like
I saw their roster from the year that you were there. It's like 100 people. It's nuts. So we're about to get there.
If you look, Rockford's probably the same thing. Like there's probably like 90 to 100 guys. Yeah.
And this is so what I have you turning 30 this year. So that's an interesting age for a ball player.
I have no idea what that means. Yeah.
Right.
I have no idea what.
Obviously not something that you considered, because I remember In my
Right.
career,
Yeah, I think that was out of my mind by that time.
not even going to touch it then. Nothing to talk about then if that wasn't on your mind.
Well, I mean, I just think it was the same thing though. Like my wife, I mean, we had kids, right? But it was never like,
This needs to be
hey,
over with. It's done.
it's
Yeah.
time to grow up or
Time to
whatever
grow
you
up, Peter
call it.
Pan.
And yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
I love it, man. So I'm super excited about this. We are at the Yuma Scorpions. This is going to be
Oh
year
boy.
10
All
for you.
right. Year 10.
2011. What an absolutely interesting roster here. North American League, coached by Jose Canseco, and Ozzy was there too.
Ozzy was there. Yep. And he was
Ozzy was
he was a
there,
player coach, both of them.
but I'm seeing Willie Abar, Chris Britton, Joey Gathright, James Hoyt, Tony Phillips was there at 52, Robbie Scott. Some absolute names on that roster, man. Let's go. Tell me about how you got hooked up with them, and let's just talk about this. Let's go.
Oh man, I honestly have no recollection of how I got connected to that one.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I'd have to think back. Somebody had to have called me. I mean,
Yeah.
Jose Melendez was the general manager down there,
Okay.
and it was probably him. And I want to say we, man, at some point had some type of interaction. But the first thing I remember about that was the first day I met James Hoyt, and we played catch, and it was like there was definitely some type of a connection. I was probably 10 years older than him or whatever, but there was just something about him, and we hit it off. And then I just remember there was a ton of dudes, like maybe 2 to 3 rosters of guys that had been sent there.
Yeah.
And they cut almost half of them like in one day. And it was on a whiteboard in the locker room. It was literally like there was a list of the guys that were staying and the guys that were gone. Like it was very clear, but and then there was nobody there to speak with, right? And it was, I'm sure there's a backstory that I have no idea. I just remember at the time it was like, whoa. And there was, some guys that are pissed and some guys that are like, whatever, and it was just, it was a bit of a chaos to start off.
Yeah.
But man, we really, that team really banded together, especially by the end of the summer.
Yeah.
Like in reflection. But yeah, I mean, there's adventures on top of adventures there that
Give
were
me some
had
stories, man.
on and off the field. I mean, I remember we played in Maui, and I think we were there for 8 days, and Brett ended up coming on this trip too. And there was no BP for 8 days.
What?
And it was just like show and go every day. And yeah.
That's great. Don't you have a Tony Phillips story? Tell me some Tony Phillips
I
stuff.
got a million Tony Phillips. Tony's fantastic. So
rest in peace.
Oh boy, what a guy. But I mean, probably the one that sticks out the most was there was a day I had a rough day. We were playing in Edmonton, and I forget what happened, but a bloop, a bleed or whatever, something that pissed me off, right? Yeah. And I came in and I'm in cleats, and I spin kick one of the bathroom stalls. And it's just like
spin
whap,
kick?
whap, 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 whap. Yep, my spun kick. And he had this thing where Jose was coming in to pitch after me, and he was throwing knuckleballs. And he had this thing where he's like, I got too much respect for what that man did playing. I'm not going to watch him do this. Like he hated that he'd go out and throw knuckleballs and pitch. And so he was in the locker room, and I had no idea he was in the locker room. And he was in there, and he's smoking a cigarette. And he looks at me, and he just shakes his head like this, and like brings me over and sits me down, and just like talked to me about being like, he was like, you're a big leaguer, mother effer, right? And he was just, and he told me all these things about, he kind of just told me from his scope, like the things that he liked about what I did, and how it was like, he didn't necessarily condone the spin kick of the shower, but at the same time, it was like, whatever. He's like, just go out and do your thing again tomorrow, and it was like this old G wisdom that he dropped on me. And then, I mean, there was moments he'd come over to my house, and I'll always remember it because growing up, I was an A's fan. Ricky Henderson was my favorite player. And I was sitting on the couch with Tony and we watched the World Series, and
That must
he's
have been
talking
awesome.
to me through it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And he had a good World Series, and it was one of those moments again where it was like, this is really like, I'm like living a dream. Like
Yeah.
this is crazy, you know? And then he had just so much wisdom as far as the pitching stuff too. And then there was a relationship that started with Bob Welch through
Oh,
Tony.
cool. Yeah.
That was awesome because he had same thing, dropped some serious wisdom on me and
Hmm.
just pitch shape stuff and,
Yeah.
taking a little bit off versus like always trying to add or, just different pitching stuff. So it was
Yeah.
fun.
Oh
Fun
man.
relationship. But yeah, Tony was special, and he mentored guys like, I know Hoyt, if Hoyt mentioned this at all, but he definitely mentored Hoyt too and had an influence on Hoyt Beast.
I don't remember Hoyt saying a whole lot about it, but I actually have my own Tony Phillips story, and I'll be brief. But
Oh, I love it.
when you got me out, and I shared it a while ago, but when you got me out to the Freedom League, a couple of the homies on the team said, "Hey, Tony Phillips goes and hits at this high school field real close. He loves when guys come and hit with him. Do you want to go hit with them?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to meet Tony Phillips." So we went out there, and we were hitting off a tee, and sure enough, he was out there. It's 100 whatever in the middle of the day, Phoenix. He's running sprints in the outfield with a parachute on his back, and
Of
then
course he is.
yeah, and then he comes in and he's hitting with us, and he's, I mean, full on talking about making it back to the major leagues with conviction. And this would have been a few years after you played with him in Yuma, so he must have been mid-50s. But he was, and then he got on the tee and was raking, hitting balls out, and he really focused on me. And he actually fixed my swing in a way. He was talking about all the deep contact I was making that I needed to get more out front. And I went from kind of hitting line drives off the tee to I started popping some balls out. And so I credit Tony Phillips with locking in on me. I don't know why he cared about me that day, but he locked in on me and would not leave until I got it. I mean, we were there for an hour. He was like, "We're going to get this right." And it wasn't like I was begging him. He just wanted to see me get it right. So that's my Tony Phillips story. I'll always cherish it.
I
What a very
love it.
special guy. Rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, all right, give me some Jose stuff. Give me some Ozzy stuff. I need to hear. As you can see, I've got a Jose. I think I got it behind me here. Can you see it? There's a Jose Canseco jersey right behind me.
Let's go.
Yep. I said it there, obviously, for us here today. So,
I mean, he was really impressive getting to watch him swing, and just kind of being around just that iconic thing. But I think at the
yes.
same time, there was times where being a player coach was definitely probably a challenge, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
think there was times where, I mean, we had multiple different pitching coaches on that team and guys just kind of, I remember Ozzy filling that gap for a little bit. We brought another guy. I would fill that gap where I could, and it was like we all kind of, it was like we were a backyard wiffle ball team in a way, or like a sandlot type of a team.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you'd look at the guys that it was, and it was like, well, this would be a heck of a sandlot team. Where even with some age, it was like I wanted the ball hit to Tony. Tony was ready from the first pitch on.
Yeah.
Like Tony was sweating in the dugout before the game started.
Yep.
And I think for a lot of the young guys, they would see some of the things where it was like, well, do you see what he's doing? And I
Right.
think it was like the same thing with some of our veteran guys where it was like some of the young guys probably learned a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think, I mean, Jose, like traveling with him was always, I mean, the two of them are obviously pretty recognizable,
yeah.
and it's walking around with that crew, especially like at airport. I remember we flew to Maui and there was all this, like we got there and we get in and there was just all these people and it was, it was like we need security or something to get
Yeah.
us through here.
And you said Jose would sometimes take like long BP rounds, and you felt like a little bit like a baseball circus?
He loved to hit. He
Yeah.
loved to hit, and I think Ozzy too, like he was a different, they're twins, which I thought was awesome, but at the same time I've trained twins too, and it's like you see the differences, but
Yeah.
then you see the guys and it was like they were like two lions, amongst whatever else was going on out there.
Two
And you'd
lions.
see it with the umpires
Love that.
too sometimes where it was like the umpires were just dead wrong and they knew they were wrong. But at the same time, I was like, they weren't going to back down. And I remember there was a couple times they'd get tossed and it would take you 15 minutes to get them off the field.
Yeah. And then I mean, did every game feel a little bit different? Because I mean, people are obviously coming to see Jose Canseco and see him hit and maybe throw
There
some
was like home run
knuckleballs.
derbies
Yeah.
before games sometimes, or there was
Right.
They were filming somebody was filming a reality show of it, so there was like cameras all the time.
Yeah. What a unique
There was a lot
experience.
of transactions, so there was a lot of people in and out. There was guys that I want to say guys got signed off those teams too.
Yeah.
Like especially late in the year, I went to San Angelo for the playoffs, and
Saw
then
that.
Gathright, I want to say, was in the playoffs with the Red Sox or as a pinch runner
Yeah.
or as a base runner. He got
He
put
did.
on a
Yeah.
playoff roster
Yeah.
and something else happened too. Maybe Hoyt went somewhere, or I know Robbie Scott.
Yeah.
There was a lot of guys that kind of got opportunities out of there. But I think, it's always interesting hanging around with somebody like, that's I mean, shoot, what, first 40-40 guy. And like,
Yes. Oh
obviously
God.
there was
What a
some
life he's
people
lived.
that didn't like him because of whatever the bookie wrote or whatever, but it was like
Yeah.
having him, like being on his side and being in the clubhouse. It was like, he was one of us. He treated us
Really?
like, yeah,
That's
I
what I was
mean, I
going to
never
ask.
had anything that was, he
That's
was,
awesome. So, like you said, he felt like one of you, just like a baseball player that didn't feel like.
I felt like Tony too. It was like Tony, I mean, he could have whatever, but it was like same thing where it's like he'd take people under his wing or he'd talk about his swing or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's something in that baseball brotherhood where it's like there's a lot of love shared between us, and I think
Yeah.
that squad, there was so many dudes, and it was like I think back to funny trips, but it was the music or the clubhouse stuff or
Yeah.
everybody hanging out after or whatever. Or actually, here's a funny story for you that just popped in my head. But
Let's go.
we were playing we were in Lake County, and something was going on pay wise. I think it was a meal money issue or something like that. And basically the teams decided that the pitchers were going to hit, and I forget who, it might have been position players that pitched. It was something along those lines. And Jose in the clubhouse before the game set the lineup, and he was like, if anybody hits a home run, I want to say it was $500. And we got this dude, Eric Stolp, steps up and just pops one right out. And sure as heck, like Jose just bam, 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 rolls out and pays him right in the dugout right there. But it was like, it was, it was a crazy summer, like all the way from
Could imagine.
that
Jose
story
Canseco.
to the Maui I mean, playing in Yuma in the middle of summer,
What was that like?
and then I think we had both kids by then. So we had two kids and we were basically living out of a hotel room.
Man. Oh.
And then a lot of times we'd have to move out, when we'd go on the road, and then you'd move back in.
Yeah.
So it was like a lot going on.
A lot going on. We're at you talked about, or you mentioned to me earlier that you had a call or a chat with Libby today. Do we have 5-10 more minutes here, or where are we at with that? Do you need to go?
He's coming over in like 3 hours.
Oh, 3 hours. Oh, that was
Mhm.
later on this evening. Okay,
It
yeah, okay.
might be your time versus my time too. 'Cause
Gotcha. Okay, that was
it
where
would actually be your time right now.
I got sideways. Dude, I get so turned around with all the time zones of people that I talk to. I'm central, but I have calls with guys on Eastern, Pacific, Mountain, and I get that jumbled in my head sometime. Let's run through.
And I have no idea what day it is, so we're good. That's
How about we do some James Hoyt clips here, and that'll
okay.
take us
Fine.
out. Is that
The
is that
Hoyt
cool with you?
Beast. Let's go.
Let's
Yeah,
go,
I'd
man.
love to
Hoyt
hear what.
Beast, is that what you called him?
Yeah, he's the Hoyt Beast around these parts.
I love it. Hoyt Beasts. Here we go. Meeting Zing.
So I'd love to hear about how you and John first connected, kind of the nature of that.
Sure. Yeah, it was 2011. It was my first professional team. They were at the time they're no longer around, but Yuma Scorpions.
Yeah.
It was
Canseco.
I believe it was the North American League, American Baseball League at the time. I was straight out of college, took a couple years after college off, and then found my way back into the game. And so I show up to this team, and I remember seeing this guy, and I was like, dude, what's this guy's deal? He's walking around barefoot.
Yep.
He's got 50 resistance bands around his neck. He's got his whole workout room just mobile, using
Yeah.
all these bands, all these chords. I'm like, what's this guy's deal? And I think he could correct you if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we got paired up one day playing catch. So we just started building a relationship out there, and I got to meet his family, got to know them well. His two kids, his wife, Britt, and yeah, we had a great year together in Yuma. Got to travel a bunch. The league was weird because we played anywhere from Edmonton, Canada to Maui, Hawaii. So I remember specifically we went to Hawaii and we're renting jet skis. We're going to these springs, before the game, jumping in the cold plunge, Nature's Creek.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just started building a relationship, man. And
Cool.
that's where we first met, and then ever since then, we just anytime I'm around Arizona, we're hanging out, we're shooting, talking shop, and then he's been supporting me throughout my whole career as far as coming to minor league games, coming to AAA, coming to big league games. So just always been there, and it's been a great relationship.
Hoyt Beast, clip 1. Keep rolling here.
Sure, yeah, I listen to
This
that
is
guy
awesome.
talk all day.
Great friend. Yeah, he's got a calming voice to him. Here we go.
I'd love to hear kind of about the nature of your relationship, like what he means to you, obviously the trust that you guys have in each other. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would just reiterate, great teammate, turned into a great friend that, turned into family. Like, I consider him family. Dude, he's a great human. I can reach out to him anytime for anything, not just baseball related, any issues or any ideas I want to drop on him. He's got a great perspective in life as far as, the way he can connect things. He's close to God. I have very strong faith, so we have that in common. And yeah, man, just a great human. One of my great friends for sure.
Oh yeah, I love it. Keep going. We got some more clips.
Hoyt Beast. Oh,
This guy's great.
It's mutual.
Yep. Let's go. Also about life.
What obviously, Zinga's a very unique guy, and there's probably a million things that you could speak on, but are there any part of his kind of eccentricness, he's out there that you think would be worth speaking on, that's interesting, it's funny, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a reason that we're so close is, we both have this strong connection with nature. I grew up in Idaho. I grew up in the mountains, so I've always been super connected to nature. Whether it's going to hike or going to, jump in a cold river or something, and this is something this guy preaches, and he does it with his entire groups, like the kids to the pro ball guys, and I'd always seen that in him. I was like, man, like, yeah, this is it. I love this. So that's one thing that I appreciate from him, and that we mesh with pretty well, is finding ways. It's not just about pitching mechanics. It's about
Ooh, not just about pitching mechanics. It's about life, and I can't wait to when we get to our talks on your Sedona trips and all that. That's so special. I'm gonna go next one here is pitching coach.
There, why? What stands out? Why is he so successful? Why do the top guys in the game continually seek him out? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's an easy answer for me. Is the guy's a pitching coach. He's not a throwing coach. If you see, the way the baseball's turned into over the last 5 years, it's all velocity. It's all how hard can you throw, how hard can you spin it. They got these big factories that are just pumping out guys that are throwing gas. And, that's great. I got nothing to knock on that. But it takes away from the game a little bit, because pitching is an art. Pitching's an art.
Right. Yeah.
It's a dance. It's a dance between you and the catcher and the hitter, and you're gambling. Or you're in a sense you're playing cards against the hitter. So that's one thing that it's always stuck out with me is the guy creates pitchers. He doesn't create throwers. If you're throwing 85 to 88, that guy will teach you how to pitch and get outs. He is not strictly, hey, you're coming in, we're training for velo. Velo's great, velo is it's the game has changed into velo, and it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of dudes that I played with that didn't have velo, but they knew how to pitch, and they worked their way to the big leagues. And I love that about his approach. Is there's nothing cookie cutter about it. It's not just that we're going to teach A. He's teaching A to Z. He's got something for everyone. Everyone's body type is different. Everyone's arm is different. Everyone throws different. And what Zing does is he just finds that uniqueness in the individual.
Yeah.
And he can relate it to them, and he can just show you many different ways to achieve greatness in yourself, not just as a pitcher, but also a human. I think that's what he does so great with the younger generation is, he's molding these guys into men, not just baseball players.
Oh man, greatness as a pitcher and as a human. You got anything,
Wow,
man?
what a
This is
beast.
what's up?
Well, I mean, I think just you can hear it in his voice, but like he's one of those guys that it's like Xander has always had a good relationship with, right? Where it's like he's a deep soul. He is connected to his roots. And one heck of a pitcher. That guy won more games or more championships than anybody I know. Every level started saying reconnecting.
Oh, cool. Well, we are back, and I guess what we kind of left it was we were commenting a little bit of James Hoyt stuff. The he was commenting on how you help people out more so as a human than as a pitcher, or both equally. I guess that's where we left off. You got anything, or you want to keep rolling, or what do
I
you
mean,
think?
I just think especially as a teammate and a friend, like this is all you could ask for, right? Like I think a lot of times as brothers too, like as you know, it's like we all look out for each other.
Yeah.
And it's like you feel like, especially Xander's always really gravitated to the Hoyt Beast too. And Meme, like he's been family. He's been around. I mean, I've got pictures of Hoyt in my backyard throwing in the pitching tunnel, and Xander's so small that he's in the baseball basket, and he's his feeder, and he's sitting there feeding Hoyt. But Hoyt was on a mission. He's won more championships than probably. I mean, if you look at all the championships he's won along the way, it's like he's got one maybe on any continent that plays baseball. I feel like
that's cool. Yeah, he was. I mean, he's still playing. He was in Mexico this past summer.
Yeah.
Still doing
I
it.
think I'm going to see him here in the next couple of weeks, so that'll be fun.
Beautiful. We got two more from him. One is ahead of his time. We'll that.
Do you have any thoughts on like how unique his whole, I guess, training thing is for pitchers?
Yeah, I think,
how unique is it compared to others? Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's awesome. I think it's the cool thing is it's nothing new. Like this guy's been doing cold tubs since 2011. Like, and then now all of a sudden cold tubs are, a $1 million industry. Like, and barefoot walking and, his breath work. Like, he talks about breathing on a rock a lot, which is like just centering yourself on the mound to focus at one pitch at a time, and it's funny because you get all these people thinking they're inventing all these new things, and like, dude, this guy was doing cold tubs in his backyard in 2011. Yeah, he's been walking barefoot forever, and now, everything's just turned into a trend. So I think his approach is just so unique, but also it's so relatable to life.
Yeah.
He brings that out in guys, and the way he just teaches and develops, most of these kids that he's working with. So I'm all for it. I've used a lot of it.
Yeah.
That's helped me. This is a game of failure. So if you can teach guys ways to relate and to slow the game down, especially pitchers. I mean, we get into such routines of working fast, and he just finds an awesome way to relate to guys and to kids, and it's awesome. I love his approach. I've used it throughout my whole career. So
beautiful.
It's kind of like the proof's in the pudding, man.
Yep. Okay. That'll conclude our Hoyt Beast stuff there. You got anything? Got anything off that?
No, I mean, it just gives me goosebumps hearing him talk, but
for yourself.
It's cool.
Then, okay, so we're kind of
hearing him reflect.
We're kind of at the end of our 2-hour window. What we kind of talked about. Do you want to wrap it up here, or do you want to go through our Joey Gathright and then wrap it up, or we could pick that up next time?
We can hit Gathright. Let's hit Gathright.
Joey Gathright time?
Yeah, what a beauty. Yeah, I'll talk about that guy.
Man, it was so cool for me to talk to him because he was around my era when I was really aware of, guys and just the legends about his athleticism. So cool to talk to him. He's going to be a guest at some point. So let's start off with Joey Gathright, genuinely a good person. And he has some absolutely touching clips here. So buckle up, guys.
He's just genuinely a good person, man. When I first met him, when I was in Yuma playing with Canseco.
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know, we just kind of gravitated towards each other, man. He's one of my closest friends, even though we don't see each other as much because he's in Arizona and I'm in Mississippi. But it's just his energy, man. Like, you know, I'm kind of a skater, hippie, hipster type of guy, and so is John's just completely hippie, man. So I just like his energy was just cool for me. And when I came out to see him in Arizona, I stayed on his couch. So it was just a cool friendship from the beginning. We just connected and we shared a lot of the things like reggae and just our general, like he put me on this guy named Mattis Yahoo, who I didn't know who he was, and you know I've been hooked on him since.
One day.
Let's go. I can hear it in the locker room right now.
All right. Well, next one is his energy.
Just his energy, man. John, there's nothing negative in his body, I don't think. Like, I've never seen him really I've seen him get upset, but it was mainly because of umpires, because his sinker ball is just so much movement. And I've seen him get upset in games, but like for a moment. And people like good energy, man. So when you're around him, you can't help but just smile. And he knows what he's talking about. You know, it's not about, even when it comes to flamethrowers. I mean, John is a, you know, locate, sinker ball, get the ground balls, pop-ups type of guy. But when it comes to pitching all around, I think he could teach to whoever, you know. Those guys that throw 95 plus, he can teach them a curveball. He can teach them a sinker, you know, all the things that they probably didn't have. Yeah. You're not going to, the higher you go, 95 is nothing. 100 is a little bit harder, but 95, 97, people can hit that. So you need to have secondary pitches. I think John can teach him that.
You got anything, or keep rolling?
I just like hearing his voice, but
Isn't it cool?
You know, I think we really hit it off, but also part of it too is like he had his process and I had my process, where it was like, I think that was part of where we originally aligned, where it was like he was dialed in. He also had martial arts background, where I think we both kind of hit it off. And I mean, you should see him throw a kick. Like,
really? Special?
Oh yeah.
He still posts some videos of himself working out. He's still in pretty darn good shape. What an absolute specimen.
Oh yeah.
All right. Next one is called John Watches the Game.
Well, John watches the game, so he knows everything that's going on. Like, I'll come in, like if I struck out or something, like we'll sit down, we'll talk, like pitches you see, and I give him, you know, well, next time look in this location because maybe this is what they're trying to do to you. Like, we talk about the game, you know, and even when guys are pitching, like we always stand by each other during the games because we're just boys like that. And plus, you know, you want to be around people that actually want to discuss what's going on in the game. Some guys aren't paying attention, but you know, John's in it. You know, he's not out in the stands looking at chicks. You know, he's just watching the game, and he's concerned for what's going on. So for me, it's just him being present and just being into the game and watching him, knowing everything that's going on as far as what they're trying to do. And when he's pitching, you know, I loved it because I knew where to set up all the time. So I knew I don't know, I just felt like I knew what he was trying to do. And he didn't miss his spots very much. When the pitcher sets up away, I know I should just stay dead center because you just never know where that sinker ball is going to go. So it was fun. I enjoyed it with John.
Love it.
I think we talked about him a little bit last time, but it was like it was like he had this, especially the instinct to come in, because I'd get some weaker contact where it was like, for me, I'd rather have him, if I leave something over the plate and they smash it over his head, that's on me. But if it's in and he can come get that one, I just loved that. He was, there was a couple of times where I'm just like, where did he come from? Like, I know where he was standing, but how did he get to there? Like,
you said his range was just alien,
like the wind.
Like nothing
like the wind.
Yeah, like the wind. That's great. Like the wind. Ooh. Okay. Next one is John as a pitcher.
Well, as far as his game, like I said, he's a ground ball pop-up type of guy, but he was more ground balls. But like I said, he didn't miss his location much. So when you know, the catcher set up, you kind of had an idea of where to go. At least I did, because I knew how much movement he had because I saw him in that backyard so much. So for me, it was easy setting up behind John. Sometimes it was difficult because it moved so much, and the catcher would set up somewhere. And sometimes we have like the random catchers back there, so they didn't know how much his ball moved or what was going on. So we had some miscommunications. But as far as like John in game, I expected a low-scoring game, which is what we had pretty much the majority of the time when he was up there. Sometimes we couldn't put any runs up because it's just one of those days, but for the most part, when he was in the game, I expected ground balls, a few pop-ups with a lot of rollovers to short. You know, there's not very many lefties in the game. So as far as him pitching, I expected a lot of ground balls to not see that many fly balls. And I expected a quick game, at least on our side, because we didn't stay out there long when John was pitching, which is great because standing in center field when somebody's pitching, man, and you're not getting any fly balls the whole game. It's kind of rough.
Okay. Got anything? Keep
Love
rolling.
his perspective, though. Yeah, he's got good perspective from center field. I don't know.
Totally. Next one is called Want Him in Your Life.
Dude, if there's any person that you want in your life for like the rest of your life, that's the guy you want. I mean, he's gonna be there for you no matter what. Like me and John, we haven't seen each other in a while, but we talk all the time as far as like messenger, because we just see what everybody is doing. I don't want to curse, but he loves Disneyland. He loves being with his kids, man, which is awesome. He, like, every picture you see is him on vacation, or if it's work, he's all over the woods throwing baseballs into the water or something crazy, man. But as far as a friend, man, there's nobody you want more than John, because he's just a great guy, other than just being a friend. If you don't know him and you meet him, you'll realize right away he's just a great person, in general.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. If anybody has hate out there, I can't see it.
Cool.
Oh, Joey.
Yeah. Oh man,
Yeah.
I told you he's gonna be touching. Next one is He Was Beyond.
Yeah, but he was like beyond.
Right.
There. If you know John, you know he's into nature and like being outside and doing random stuff with no shoes on ever. His backyard was just this little playground. Like when I was there, he had kids coming over all the time. And he's moved since, but he had kids coming over all the time. It was kind of like a junkyard backyard, but everything was in the right place. And it was just a great atmosphere, man. We just had fun teaching kids. I was teaching them a little bit about martial arts, and we just bonded that way.
Okay, talking about the backyard pitching lab. I can't wait till we get into that, man. That's so cool. And every
that
once
was a
in a while,
fun chapter.
You've you'll post like not that long ago, you posted like a video or a picture. I think it was Libby, like in the early days of the backyard lab, and just like, man, that's so cool just to see it. Next one is on John's success. We've got one more after that.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was gonna happen. Like when he was doing it like that in the backyard, like he was getting more and more people, and then I came back to see him, and he had like this whole layout of like how he was gonna transform his backyard into this big thing, and I was like, well, that's great, man. And then the next thing you know, he's at Fuel Factory, and I'm seeing all these big league guys coming out to see him, minor league guys. I was like, whoa, he's really transformed the backyard pitching thing into like a whole big.
Yeah, it is. And that, I obviously got to know you right around, or when I met you was right around that time when the backyard lab was kind of happening. So I've watched it happen too, man. I've seen this whole transformation of like, all right, Johnny's figuring this out in his backyard with some young guys, to like, oh, Johnny's training some dogs, to like he's got his own place, to Fuel Factory, to Prime Reaction, to where you're at now, man. It's a beautiful journey, my friend. The last one is a funny one. Yeah, right.
Boy.
This one's called coconut oil. You ready?
So we did have fun. So I hope there's something funny. That's good.
Here we go.
Yeah, one time when I first got to his house, like I didn't know anything about coconut oil. And this dude uses coconut oil for everything, to cook, to put on like wounds. Like I had a swollen knuckle and I couldn't get it to go down. And he's like, man, I'm telling you, just try this. And I was like, what is that? He's like, coconut oil. I'm like, John, I don't want to do any of this hippie stuff, man. Like, just give me like some ice. He's like, dude, I'm telling you, just put it on there. Give it like 2 or 3 days. I swear on everything. My knuckles gone down. He started like, I wanted eggs one morning. He put coconut oil in the pan. I was like, what? Where's the butter, man? He's like, oh, we don't have butter in this house. I was like, John, you gotta stop, man. You gotta stop. But like, it's like everything is coconut oil. So I mean, as far as his hippie stuff, man, it's nonstop. I mean, you just look at it, man. He just breathes hippie stuff. He's never wearing shoes if he doesn't have to. His son is just like that. I don't know. His son's a little older now, but when we were younger, everywhere we went, store, anywhere, like they never had on shoes or sandals. I was like, John, we can't live like this, man. We're not, like, come on. But he's hippie through and through, man. I love it. That's what I love about it.
That concludes our Joey Gathright clips. Thank you to Joey Gathright, not only for taking time to speak with me, but for being a part of this. Like I said, I grew up really thinking that guy was incredible, cool guy. You got anything more on Joey Gath and your relationship or anything there?
I mean, I think as an athlete, like his explosion as an athlete is also like what he's like when you hang out with him. Like I remember we'd play cards, and like sometimes you'd have 4 guys to play cards or whatever, but like we could play 2-man games and we'll literally just sit there for hours and just go back and forth, because like the competitive but also the fun loving, and just I can just remember fun road trips and spending lots of time with that guy in the hotel rooms or on the bus or in the dugout or I mean, I think that's stuff like that makes the reflection really thankful, right? Where it's like the relationships that you build. You know,
Yeah.
obviously the stuff you got to do is cool, but I really always goes back to me as the relationships you get to build
Oh yeah.
with awesome people, you know. So I mean,
Sure. And you
on
got to
now,
meet.
Gat, let's go.
Let's go. And you got to meet so many baseball people, man. You have lived the ultimate baseball life of connection and getting around the game. And your Rolodex of people that you know and contacts must just be infinity. You know, I can't even imagine that.
Well, I think we're just all connected too. That's the fun part where it's like, and you know, a lot of times the majority of us, it's like we would reach out and do something to help another too. So I think that's
Sure.
important. Like in this community is like, that's why, you know, I think it's invaluable, the relationships that you get to build
Yeah.
with brothers, you know. And I think, you know, a lot of times too, it's looking back, it's yes, it was about, you know, winning games and, you know, doing your best on the field, but at the same time it was like the the brothership is just as valuable as any of that or more.
That's a perfect
You
place
got
for
my
us to end here.
heartstrings, baby. You got my
Yeah.
heartstrings.
Let's go. This is gonna be. I got nothing else here. Let's wrap it up there. This is
Cool.
gonna be part 2 of the Jonathan Huizinga story. This is going exactly how I wanted it to, how I saw it. Actually, even above and beyond, dude. You are a special Yoda baseball dude, man. This is so cool. I hope people are listening out there. You got anything else before we get out of here, brother?
No, just thank you. I mean, this is a fun trip down memory lane, and
Yeah.
it's nice having you kind of lead this little journey again, but it's once again just made me really thankful for all the cool things I've got to do and get
Yeah.
to continue to do. So
Hey,
thank you.
gratitude is a beautiful thing. This is going to be the Jonathan Huizinga story, part 2. Hope you guys enjoyed. We are out of here.